Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving value's contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to haters. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
Okay, so we got a friend in the house, a man we love, Dave Rubin. How you doing? Good to see you.
PBD, I must say, you know, I do a lot of these programs, and some people say I was a pioneer of the podcast and going independent and all that thing. But you guys run an operation. I mean, now we're in the live studio.
Yes.
Do you have to explain to people why there's no one here, but we're all here?
Well, the reason why is because this building has, how many ACs does this one have? 12 ACs. The other one has one. And the other one is
I run hot. So.
How 28-ton AC unit that we have to bring from a whole different place. Long story, we wanted to be cool, so we decided to do it here, man. Because we don't want to be sweating. The last podcast we did, we were sweating. Vinny and Adam passed out at one point. I have to kind of tell them, fan him. You're going to be okay. Anyways.
Vinny strikes me as someone that sweats a lot.
Middle Eastern, yeah, it's bad.
He's got that Middle Eastern oil gene. Anyways, guys, we've got a lot of topics to cover. We have to talk about your guy, Governor Ron DeSantis, especially after this weekend, you know, with the events that happened at Turning Point USA and why he didn't go to Turning Point USA. And I'd love to get your feedback on that and what happened at the Blaze event, which was an incredible event. What Tucker did to Asa and what Tucker did to Mike Pence, potentially finishing off his career. I mean, you know, we'll talk about a poll I ran on me having Vivek DeSantis, Tim Scott, and Mike Pence on what happened to it. Then I ran one with Vivek against RFK, what happened to, which was kind of interesting. And then a couple other stories that we got. One is the border. Some stuff is going on at the border we want to talk about. A story came out from Insider, which I thought it was very interesting because, you know, to them, they said, what is microaggression? 15 things people think are fine to say at work, but are actually racist, sexist, or offensive. You actually have to read this to see what people are saying with that. And then Ron Perlman calls out studio executive who said strike will cause home losses. Be careful, mother effer. We'll show this video with Ron Perlman. He seems like a very pleasant, nice sweetheart of a guy.
Great guy.
And the person he's calling out, $27 million. You made $27 million. We know who he's calling out. I'll point out why he said 27 million. Rob, you're going to need to Google this when we get to that point of what happens there. Europe's getting poor. San Francisco, Mark Benioff, who bought Time magazine and he owns Salesforce, he says San Francisco downtown's never going back to the way it was. Home prices are, interesting things happen with a steep and sustained decline this year is what an economist from Fox Business is saying. Tucker Carlson's about to start a media company. I don't know if you've heard or not. He's raising money behind closed doors. Insider, look at this beautiful headline. You ready? The number of views for Tucker Carlson's new show on Twitter has dropped by 86% since its launch. And by the way, it's absolute fake news. We'll talk about that. A few other things about politics that's going on. But I say let's get right into it with Turning Point USA. And FYI, for some of you guys that are watching, we're about to announce the next town hall. It'll be the first town hall we're doing in this building. I believe it's August 4th. It is August 4th. We'll do here town hall. We got 3 more set up after that, but we'll be announcing the first one. So for those of you guys that want to be invited, because it'll sell out like this, text the word podcast to 310-340-1132. Again, text the word podcast to 310-340-1132. At the end of the podcast, I'll announce who that person is, and then we'll shoot you a text for you to be able to go buy the tickets. But having said that, let's get right into it. So I had Charlie Kirk on a podcast.
Yeah,
okay, and you know Charlie, you know what he's done. Great job at a young age on what he's built with Turning Point USA. They had, apparently 7,000 people at the event. Unbelievable turnout. And I asked him, I said, Charlie, I saw your lineup of guests. The Blaze had, DeSantis, they have this, they have that. How come you don't have DeSantis? Why didn't you invite DeSantis? And he said he did. I don't know if you've seen his response or not.
Yeah, I saw the podcast.
But do you think, Governor Ron DeSantis not going to the Turning Point USA event, the criticism that Charlie Kirk gave, it's in your state, it's in your backyard, why don't you go to it? Do you think it was the right move not to go, or do you think he should have gone?
Well, first off, let me just say blanket before we do anything else that I'm happy to dive into absolutely any of this, whatever we may agree on, disagree on, and hash
You've
it
always
out
been a sport
and
about
fight
it.
it out. And well, we should. And one of the things that I think frustrates people with mainstream media is you don't know any of these people's opinions. You watch Jake Tapper, and you don't really know his opinions. You have an inclination as to what they are.
That's a
any
good
of these
point.
guys,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's important that you and I are upfront about our opinions, and then we can hash it out. In terms of going to Turning Point or not, I've gone to many of those events. It's a yearly event. They used to call it the Student Action Summit. I think they've rebranded it this year. Look, in essence, it's a Trump rally. That's what it is. That's the first place I ever met Donald Trump. Ended up going to Mar-a-Lago after spending time with him. That's one of the nights that kind of converted me to be a Trump supporter in the first place. But virtually everyone there is a hardcore Trump supporter. If I'm not mistaken, DeSantis did do it last year with Trump. They were both there last year. As for him not doing it this year, look, I think it was it the day before that the Blaze event was, and Trump was not at that. So everyone has their own calculations. I think for DeSantis, probably optically, it was a good move not to go because you're going to a Trump base event where people are going to go bananas for Trump, and they like you, but they're going to be a little afraid of applauding for you because we know how rabid that base is. So I don't know that there's some message that he couldn't get out otherwise. Could he have shown up and would he have done his usual thing? Sure, but I don't think it hits you either way. To be quite honest, I actually think Trump not going to the Blaze thing was far more damaging in terms of your ability to get your ideas out there because first off, Tucker's mostly a Trump guy. He's never flat out said that he voted for Trump or something like that.
He's criticized everybody, but
he criticized, but especially on foreign policy.
I won't dispute that.
But I think that would have been really interesting. Like if you want to see Trump do an honest sit down with someone where he's not just fighting back and forth like he would on CNN or something. It's like Tucker's the guy, right? So I think Trump should have been there. That to me strikes me as more of a missing piece than DeSantis at the other thing.
So here's what I would say to that. For me, it's naturally going to be a Trump event because Trump was a president. So I think if DeSantis was the president and flipped this entire scenario and Turning Point USA was campaigning for DeSantis in 2015, 16, they helped him and Trump helped pick up Charlie Kirk when he said at 24 years old, he helped me. And then 2020 becomes a Trump event because Trump was running, DeSantis was in the picture. Flip it. If 2016 was DeSantis and he becomes president and then he goes and helps Charlie Kirk and in 2020, it's a DeSantis event. Of course, the Turning Point USA event would be a DeSantis event, and Trump would have to come to enemy territory, essentially, but he would have to do that because that's what you want. So if you look at whether I saw Will Cain the other day, asked DeSantis the question. By the way, right now, the last thing you want is for every single show to go to. He doesn't go to podcasts, but he goes to all these shows and he likes 10-minute shows, 20-minute shows, DeSantis. And even when we talk, they're like, yeah, he only likes 20-minute shows. Why do you only like 20-minute shows? Why not do a 2-hour show? Why not sit down and do a long form? So every one of the shows he goes to, what's the host asking? The first question, hey, what do you think about the criticism the media has given you about the fact that you are no longer da-da-da-da-da and you're no longer, you're not willing to go out there and talk to people and all this stuff. If 20 people ask you, that becomes a reputation. So right. I think for him, I would say the other way around, anywhere the leading candidate goes is an honor for that person to have them. Meaning the Blaze is lucky to have Trump because Trump is the leading candidate. But DeSantis showing up and saying yes to Charlie Kirk, which, by the way, here's the other thing to be thinking about Charlie Kirk. Let's think about it from this position here. How long will Trump, I'm going to talk very logical, and we're going to talk purely strategic, nothing emotional,
Sure.
Okay? Who matters more over the next, how long is DeSantis planning on being in politics? What do you think his timeline is? Is it fair to say DeSantis is going to be in politics a lot longer than Trump is?
Oh, for sure.
No question about it. Can we say 20, 30 years?
Longer.
I would say 30 years.
Say 50 years.
Perfect. Let me ask you a question. Whose lifespan is longer in the political space? Not literally lifespan, although that can be also calculated. Is Charlie Kirk going to be in political space longer than Donald Trump?
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
There's
Longer
no
than
question
Donald
about
Trump,
it.
of course, yeah.
It's going to be Charlie Kirk,
Yeah.
right? So to me, when you have somebody that's got and maybe Charlie has the most important vote of the Republican Party, which is who? The guys in their 20s, because you could have that vote for 40, 50 years. You don't want to go there. Think about 7,000 younger people are sitting there saying, you don't want to come earn my vote? I don't know, man. I'm kind of offended. That could last 20, 30 years. So I don't know. If I'm a strategist behind closed doors and we're having this conversation and we're saying, hey, guys, we're going to choose between one of the two. We got the Blaze, which, again, Glenn Beck is one of the guys that's on the Mount Rushmore at his peak. He was a show nobody would ever miss. He crushed it. And he was a one guy I met years ago. I'm like, this guy's an incredible talent, and he's a very good communicator.
Yeah.
But if you see Turning Point USA, to say you skip that and it's a Trump place, that could have been an opportunity to come in and give a message and win their vote. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Again, we're not privy to all the calculations of what anyone was doing on any given day. You know, Trump said he had some prior engagement for the Blaze thing. So it's like everyone makes their calculations. I think there's more wins to showing up. If you're confident in what you're doing, then there's more wins to showing up. So as I said, DeSantis would have given a great speech. The applause probably would have been more tepid than the rabid Trump base, because Turning Point, and again, I've done plenty of things with them. I like and respect Charlie. I've known him for many years. In essence, you know, they're a nonprofit, as I understand it, they're a nonprofit that really is a Trump campaign fundraising organization. Like, there is some weirdness there, and I think maybe DeSantis didn't want to get fully mixed up in that. But I see wins in showing up, and I think your point to DeSantis is obviously number 2. He's not number 1 at the moment, so you got to make some of those inroads, and we shall see how it continues.
You make a good point, because when I was when I went to Turning Point USA's 10-year anniversary fundraiser, some of the people there were uncomfortable on the position that they were taking with Trump, because some of the DeSantis guys were there and it's like, hey, you know, I don't know if I want to contribute because I'm more DeSantis, I'm not Trump, all this stuff. So that was an objection that some of the donors had to address. I
also don't know all the legal ramifications of when you're running a nonprofit that's a political nonprofit. You know, you can't directly endorse a candidate. I think they get as close to that. I'm not sitting here trying to start nonsense. I'm just saying, like, there's always that fine line between, like, oh, we're putting these people up to talk about their ideas and so that they can express themselves, versus we're tacitly endorsing them and in essence raising money for them. That's a very fine line.
So for me, like, I think from the span of, okay, for media, we're going to be around for a long time. The only person that can fire us is going to be the man upstairs. That's it. So if I'm either dead or God says you're done, no problem, I'm not doing it. This thing's going to continue on its own by time, and it's going to do what it's going to do. But we're going to be competing for the next 40 years. Yeah. So if we're going to be competing for the next 40 years, it is very imperative of us to look at young talent that's coming up, that's formidable, that are true believers, that are capable to say, I think that guy could one day be a superstar. Like, for example, the Tucker moment when Jon Stewart came to try to bully him. We've all seen that whole thing, Crossfire, and he's trying to bully him. And in that moment, I just want to know, when Tucker got off stage, what did he tell himself that night? Or his best friend, or his wife, if he was married at the time, or his girlfriend, or his family? What did he say to them? Did he say something like, I'm going to kill this guy in the media space? I want to know that, because...
Oh, I bet you a nugget was planted, because that was a seminal moment in television and cable news, for sure.
And if you talk about Jon Stewart and Tucker, maybe mainstream, some people go, well, you know, it's Jon Stewart, all this stuff, but Tucker's in a whole different level. It's not the same league.
Also, by the way, Jon Stewart has become far more of what he was accusing Tucker of than Tucker, right? Because they were sitting on Crossfire, and Stewart basically walked on that set and said, you are the reason, talking to Tucker, you are the reason for political partisanship and hackery and the hatred and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, who actually has added more to that in the last decade? I would say Jon Stewart has been a far worse arbiter of those things than Tucker. Tucker actually, if you escape what the mainstream media says about Tucker is constantly talking about crossing the divide. He's trying to talk about what populist things will bring us both together, talking about his actually classically liberal roots constantly. John is the one who's gone completely bananas left. So there's been a real shift in there, and I wonder, that would be a great conversation for them to have.
That would be a phenomenal conversation for the two to have. But okay, so you know, I watched the governor on Fox a couple days ago. I don't know who he was, but he was with somebody. It was a 15-minute clip I watched. And the gentleman interviewed him. He's somebody that people who watch Fox should know who this guy is. He's very good at what he does. But he asked a lot of good questions. And hey, you know, what are you going to do with this and what are you going to do with that? And then DeSantis kept going back. The Republican voter knows this. And, you know, Iowa, we've spent this. And in Iowa, we're doing meetings and people are showing up. We were having some meetings that was 30, 40 people. And, you know, when you say stuff like that, and it's like, well, what do you think about the fact that, you know, some people are claiming you're not a marketer, you don't know how to sell the campaign, you don't know how to do this. What are your thoughts on that? Well, you know, if you look at it, you know, I'm here to do a job, and if you look at what I've done in Florida, do you think we are seeing and witnessing where the whole idea of what Nixon lost to John F. Kennedy years ago, because Nixon was a very qualified candidate, more qualified than John F. Kennedy. Nixon was essentially a Ron DeSantis. Forget the Watergate example, just set that part aside, where Nixon had to learn how to go be a little bit more of a showman, more presentable, and he had to go work with some people behind closed doors. Do you think that's a fair criticism that Ron is getting, and do you think that's going to hurt him? Or do you think, no, I think it's irrelevant, he still has a shot?
Well, you know, last time we sat on this very stage, which was probably about 4 months ago, you brought that up, that there's a marketing issue with DeSantis. To me, that's, and I'll repeat what I said that time, and then I'll give you a new twist on it. To me, that's a very solvable problem. I think what you want out of a candidate are two things. You want, basically, does this guy roughly believe in the things that I believe in politically? Do we have enough stuff that we kind of agree on that I can support this guy? And then, do you think that this guy can accomplish it? That I think is the bigger one now, because I think we have a lot of people who say the right things, but can they actually do it? Now, in my estimation, obviously, DeSantis checks those two boxes. Is there some level of a marketing thing? Well, look, he has not done your show. He absolutely should do your show. So I don't know where you guys are at internally with that, but he should. You know, just yesterday, I think they announced that he's doing Megyn Kelly finally. Now, she's been very critical of him, partially because he has not done her show. It's a great move to go on that show. He's going on Jake Tapper today at 4 p.m.
I saw that.
So that is an interesting moment. He's basically, his position with the mainstream media has basically been, you guys lie about everything, I'm not going to play your game, as opposed to Trump, where it's, you guys lie about everything, I'll constantly play your game. But now he's realizing, okay, I got to get in on that. So we'll see what happens with him and Tapper. I would love to see the guy go on Rogan. He should just say offhand, he should say, hey, I'll do Rogan, why not? Why wouldn't I do that 3-hour thing, not just the 20-minute thing? He should sit down with those harpies on The View and let them say all of the crazy BS nonsense. I don't.
Is it fear or is it fear?
No, I don't
You don't
think
have
it's
to
fear.
give the answer, but is it fear? Or is it somebody behind closed doors holding back, or is it I'm too good for that?
No, well, first off, again, I'm not
You're speaking for yourself.
I'm not a surrogate.
Of course.
I'm just giving you
Right.
my opinion on this. I think they're running a campaign, and everyone runs a campaign a little bit differently. I think they probably wanted to test the waters. When he announces, we believe this is the best guy, he's sort of the most functional and competent, let's see what happens, what it does to the polls. Now, it clearly did not do to the polls what they wanted, so now they have to dive in a little bit of a different way. As I've been saying on my show for weeks now, do you know, the first debate is not till August 23rd, so we're still a month away from the first debate. Do you guys know when the first votes are cast, the first primary? Do you have any idea?
Well, it's August 23rd in Milwaukee. That's the first primary.
That's the first, no,
Right.
that's the first debate.
Correct.
Do you know when the first primary is? Do you have any idea? It's January. So we are still basically 7 months away from votes being cast in the first primary in Iowa. So this meme out there that he has to drop out now, and it's such crazy nonsense. No, not you. Not you, but you get this from the Trump people now. It's like, he better drop out to save his political career.
They have
and
to
all.
say that.
Dave, you're saying there's a lot left game to be played.
Of course.
We're a little still early. We're in the first quarter.
We're literally 7 months away from the... We're not even in... We're in the pregame of the pregame. We're in the locker room before the pregame, and all of those pieces have to fall into place. So I think they were trying to do a slow burn, And to your point as marketing, and to your credit, by the way, this is exactly what you said 3 months ago, and you were right, because it has not lit fire. You gotta change tactics. I think the Tapper thing today is going to be, my gut feeling is something interesting is going to happen there that might shift the narrative a little bit. Because what he needs a little bit of the RFK juice. Whether I agree with RFK on everything or not, and I had him on my show last week, it's like he's got some of the zeitgeist stuff. I think what DeSantis is missing, people know he's competent. They know he's a good governor and all that stuff. But it's the zeitgeist thing that gets you to all the pieces you're talking about. Like, how do you market that?
And with RFK, there's the policy stuff, which is some love it, some highly dislike it. There's also the personality stuff. It's sort of two sides of the coin. You see RFK pumping those weights, like takes his shirt off. It's like, what is this guy running for the next Hulk Hogan, or what is he doing? DeSantis' challenge is certainly not a policy thing. In my opinion, which we've discussed, it's a personality thing. It's a marketing thing. The guy played baseball at Yale.
Yeah.
Dude, get out there, throw the ball around, hit a home run, hit a dinger, do a big poppy, walk around the bases, like, be real.
Yeah.
What people love about Trump is, dude, he'll get out there and give you that strong handshake, he'll do his thing, how you doing? He's out there.
It's incredible.
You're
Trump
running against a marketing genius, arguably one of the greatest marketers of all time, and you're missing the marketing game. That's the biggest challenge.
I would also, so I do agree with that. And the funny thing about Trump is, it's like he's the fakest person in the history of the world, and also the most authentic person.
It's amazing how he can do both.
That really is probably the true genius.
I'm the fakest, realest guy you've ever met in your life. Which one is it? I don't know either.
He's literally a non-human color with that crazy hair. That's the fakest thing you can imagine. And then his lifestyle and all of those things have nothing to do with the ordinary man. And then yet, obviously what you're saying, and from when the times I've been with him, there's a real human in there. And that's the thing that I think people are trying to connect to DeSantis. It's also like, in some ways, it's sort of why we end up probably where we're at politically, and why politics in the modern world almost can't work. Because we're sort of asking for a best friend and a father and a bro and a whatever. And it's like, I have friends, and I have a father, and I have a brother. So I'm not really looking for all of that. I'm looking for a competent executive, and I think that that's important. But yes, should he get out there I want to see the guy in a T-shirt. I've said that to them. Like, he should show up to Rogan in a T-shirt, not in a suit, but or with you, or just like some of that. I guess.
Be real.
The first time I ever met him in person, where we actually spent some time together one-on-one, was backstage when I did a show with him last June. And we had about a half hour, and all he wanted to talk about actually was baseball.
Which is awesome.
And my buddy who was joining me on tour, my body man, he was a baseball player too. So they totally hit it off, talked about, and it was like, that is the thing that I think people are kind of looking for. I think that's what you're looking for. It's certainly what you're looking for. And I just think patience, everyone wants everything at once.
Dave, I hear you. Yeah. It's a long game. We're in the second inning, to use a baseball analogy. Yeah. But there's also missed opportunities. So he played baseball at Yale. The guy's an athlete. He's a stud. He was a Navy JAG officer. Yeah. It was just the MLB All-Star game. Dude, get out to the All-Star game. Give a little, throw on the mound, whatever it is. Just be real. And then people are going to be like, I didn't even know he played baseball. Yeah. Amazing.
Again,
Take some pictures with the players. Do some BP. That's what's missing. And I do agree fully that it's a long race. Debates are coming up in months. And you said that the first vote is cast in January, but you're also missing these opportunities for the average guy to be like, oh, I didn't know that he played baseball. Well, I didn't know that he was a real dude.
Yeah, and you guys said about, like, marketing. Donald Trump, out of nowhere, like when we were at the UFC, he's
up.
Almost 80 years old. You look back, it's midnight, and you're like, is he here? Yeah. And he's been doing that. And then you actually nailed it on Pat, Charlie Kirk. You called him out on, you didn't call him out, but when Charlie Kirk was like, I called Trump, this isn't accessibility. Yeah. Call Trump, 2 rings. Hey, what's up? Yep, I'll be there. Bye, click. They go, we couldn't even get to DeSantis.
But I saw Charlie say that, and with all due respect, that's slightly nonsensical. He's in it with Trump, and there's all that money there in the fundraising, and as I said, Turning Point is basically a campaign arm, so it's a little disingenuous.
But
respect to Charlie, it's a little disingenuous to be like, oh, I can get the guy that I've been on the campaign with for 6 years on the phone. I can't get DeSantis. Like, it would be easier for me to get DeSantis than Trump, but that doesn't prove that DeSantis is more accessible. You know what I mean?
Fully appreciate that, Dave. But if it was just Trump DeSantis, but he also did mention, I got RFK running the line, I got Nikki Haley on the line, I got Tim Scott on the line. He's developing a narrative. And like, listen, we're people that were like, we want you to win. We want you to do well. He's developing a narrative of not showing up, of sort of playing like, playing it safe, playing prevent defense. And if you just look at the polls, look at the polls.
I love polls. They love me.
It was neck and neck in February, and now it's a 4-1 lead.
You know, national polls actually mean nothing. You guys know that.
Hillary,
they mean absolutely nothing. You have to win a couple primaries, and I think he's going to do really well in Iowa. I think he's going to do well.
Agree.
I think he's going to do well in New Hampshire. Then South Carolina comes. South Carolina is going to be the wackiest of all of them because assuming, well, Nikki will certainly be in it, but assuming Tim Scott is still in it, that thing's going to get split in a lot of weird ways. Yes. So it's very possible Trump comes out and he's 0 for 5 right at the beginning because of some weird things. So that's why I'm saying everyone just has to, you know, I know it's sort of like we're all in the talking class and everyone's obsessed with and by the way, we can talk about Vivek too, who obviously has had a nice couple days. But I just think, you know, there's a tortoise and the hare situation here and everyone has to kind of be patient. But I get it from the marketing perspective. I fully get your perspective.
Listen, policy-wise, we've said this over and over. We're here because of him. Like, this isn't a...
the both of you, by the way.
Me too. What do you mean? Me too. I came here because of Pat Anderson.
There is
born and raised Miami.
OG.
No shots here taken about policy, which is what matters. Which is what matters. The policies is what matters.
Correct.
But my God, you need help to sell the policies to others. I have guys, I'll never forget. So at the beginning when I started running a business, I recruited this one guy. His last name, I'm not going to say, I'll say his first name, Steve. Okay, he was a cop. And he comes in, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to be an incredible salesperson for us. He's going to kill it. He was in his mid-40s, good-looking guy, blue eyes, in shape, would run all this stuff. I'm like, this guy's going to kill it. First week, he gets his insurance license. Second week, he gets his 6 and 63. Third week, he gets his PNC license. Fourth week, he gets his real estate license. By the 20th week, he's got 26 licenses.
Jeez.
Has not sold a single policy.
Recipe for disaster.
He knew everything about every product, all the technical stuff, but had no clue how to sell it. We would sit him in front of a client and we would say, sell. Couldn't do it, he would freeze. I would say, sell me. There is no camera. Close the door, let's role play. He couldn't do it. These are types of things where somebody, for me, does he have a marketing team? Does he actually have a marketing and a PR team?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
So I would probably immediately hire somebody to give 3 different perspectives. You know, a story came out about how Kim Kardashian, that's a weird story for me to give. Kim's like, I thought I was fashionable until I started dating Kanye. And one day Kanye comes in her closet and he looks at the closet and he says, you have no taste. Wow. All you do is you wear what everybody else tells you to wear because you're following the fashion and the trends. He says, he takes all her clothes out of her closet, trashes it. She says, we can't get rid of it. He says, do I have to really throw it away? You have to throw all of this stuff away. He gets rid of all her stuff and says, I'm going to fill it up.
Wow.
And you're going to be a trendsetter. He brings it in. Kim goes from being a girl that was known for being famous, partying, all this Ray J, all this stuff. All of a sudden, Kim is now a fashion nova. People are now watching what she wears to go. So, meaning, it can be fixed. But you got to bring a marketing person behind closed doors. That's the only thing that's missing. And I don't know if they want to do that. They're one. You know how you and I like basketball? We're both sports. And you look at the team, and you're like, Miami, man, they're one piece away. They need one guy. Jimmy's a dog. They got a good team, but they need one more guy, right? Vincent went to LA, but they need one more guy.
Come to Miami,
okay,
buddy.
I don't know if he's the guy, but we'll see. He needs one more person. You look at certain teams, they're like one away, one away, one away. I think DeSantis is one move away. It's a brilliant marketer behind closed doors to just say, let's test this. Didn't work. What do you want? Who are you? What matters to you? Can you tell me what you like? What do you like? Stop saying, here's what America likes. No, what do you like? What are your interests? What's your style of parenting? Tell me about your family. Tell me about this. Someone's got to draw that out of him, and it hasn't happened
I
yet.
think that's an absolutely fair criticism. I would also say there's something weird going on here with the internet in terms of how we respond to good and bad. Meaning, if you watch the forum, the Blaze forum, right? What were the clips that really went viral? It was Tucker demolishing Asa Hutchinson, who nobody cares about, right?
Yeah.
The guy was polling at -6. He's done. What was the other clip that went viral? It was Tucker demolishing Pence, right? So that goes viral. Now, if you watched Tucker sit down with Nikki and DeSantis specifically, there were no flubs. So those clips don't go viral. You basically, how many of the DeSantis clips with Tucker did you see?
I thought DeSantis did good with
No,
Tucker.
no,
Yeah.
he did great. That's my point. But they don't go viral because nobody's interested in viral. He
Good
made
stuff.
sense.
I disagree.
It was good.
But I disagree. But
that's just the nature of the internet.
But listen, okay. We do marketing stuff for professionally, right? So there's an art, and you it's not like you got 200,000 followers. You got millions of followers, and you're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you also know it. Like if we talk marketing behind closed doors, you're like,
Sure.
here's what works, SEO, da. Okay, you can go simply on TikTok, on YouTube, on Google right now. Type in phrases that makes TikTok videos to go viral. Just Google that. I don't know. Just search phrases that make videos on TikTok go viral.
Like
it's gonna
titles and
say
stuff?
It's a lot of twerking,
100
right? It's all twerking.
phrases,
It's
right?
all
Now watch
twerking.
this.
We should all just start
Let's see
twerking
what
right
I
now.
Okay, watch
Yeah,
this. Watch
SEO.
this.
Yeah, it's
It's
gotta
gonna
be
make your
twerking.
video. Okay, 50 TikTok. No, go to the next one. Go to the next one. If you look at some 175 best captions for recall, 100 TikTok captions that would inspire to go. So,
Dance.
how to
Love.
make viral. Okay, so for example, you open up something and say, let me tell you what I just saw earlier today, and if you see this, you're going to be blown away by it, right? Boom. And so what is this? And then you tell stories. There's an art to storytelling. There's art to creating controversy or getting people to be curious about what you got going on. By the way, it's not hard to teach. Selling can be taught. Communication can be taught. Creating curiosity can be taught. That is an area they have to make investment. I don't want to beat the dead horse. We can go to the next topic, but I just want to say,
But Rubin,
it's
Dave,
fixable.
but he nailed it though. This, like today, he's doing something. Maybe this is that like 6-month mark where now like they're saying, okay, now let's start it.
Can
Now
you
let's
pull up
go.
that article you found about Kim Kardashian and Kanye West? I just saw it at the end. It was phenomenal until it was too late. It was crazy. With Margie Simpson, it says Kanye compared Kardashian to Marge.
To Marge Simpson?
Check this
That's
out.
funny.
Kanye West called Kim Kardashian and told her that her career was over when he first saw one of her outfits that he hadn't styled and compared her to Marge Simpson.
So funny.
Can you imagine that?
That's
and then
so
you know when
funny.
she wins the award, what she says? In her speech, she says, I never understood style and fashion until I started dating Kanye. He changed the way I viewed, and Kim is now the modern day. Some people are going to say she's not. You can pick and choose whether it's her or Margot Robbie or whoever.
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe, you're
Marilyn
saying.
Monroe type
Yeah.
of a
Yeah.
figure,
Mogul.
like a Elizabeth
Yeah.
Taylor type of a figure. Anyways,
I don't see why you have to throw Marge Simpson under the bus. I mean, the pearls,
That's a good point. That is a good point.
pretty
A lot
hot.
of people
She's
are
got it all.
offended
Yeah,
by that.
Marge is hot.
Can you,
Listen,
can you,
guy,
Rob,
we are
can-
going to fully disagree on Marge Simpson being
Nah,
hot.
Dave is right. She's
Can
hot.
you
it's
pull
not.
up the poll we ran this last week on Twitter? The two polls. The first one being the which one was it? No, the other one. Can you pull up the other poll? Yeah. So here's a poll I did. I said, which of these 4 candidates has your vote today? And this was July 15th.
Wow.
This
85,000
is
votes.
after Vivek had some momentum at Turning Point USA, a lot of momentum at Turning Point USA. 85,000 people voted. It's not a million votes, but it's a good amount of
Good
numbers to kind
sample
of see.
size right there.
And this is after Pence screwed up with what he said. It's none of my concern. Pence goes 2.1. I intentionally didn't put Chris Christie because I wanted to see if this Tim Scott is really a possible VP candidate for Trump, because you probably read this. It is a name that's being brought up. Tim Scott went to 4%, DeSantis 36%, Vivek 58%. So then a lot of people say, well, how come RFK's not in this? How come Trump's not in this? I'm intentionally not putting Trump or Biden. That's obviously intentional. Those guys are the guys that are the lead dogs right now, the favorite. Then pull up the other one, RFK versus Vivek, and this one was interesting.
Wow.
In the last 24 hours, 54,000 voted, and it's by a, 1.4% margin.
What made you put those two? Very interesting dynamic right there.
First of all, a lot of people will say, well, your audience is conservative and your audience is this. Well, no, look, a Democrat beat out a conservative.
Well, so that's why this
Very
one
interesting.
one strikes me as way more interesting, because obviously, like my audience, your audience is going to lean right. Let's say, I'm sure they're all over the place politically, but basically leaning right. And that's what's so interesting about RFK, which is what I'm saying DeSantis has to do. He has to capture some of the zeitgeist that RFK has. So I had RFK on last week, and he gets into how he was at a party with Hillary Clinton like a month ago where she said to him behind closed doors, why don't you get out of the way? We all want Biden. Like, that's juice. That's something that people
Hillary
want to
said
talk
this?
about. That's what Hillary, he said many people say it to me, even Hillary Clinton at a party, I think he said on the Upper East a couple weeks ago. So like those types of things.
Wait,
and,
who said this?
RFK.
Hillary said it to
Hillary,
RFK.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
like the DNC said it to Bernie in 2016.
Right.
Just get out of the way, Bernie.
Yeah.
We want Hillary.
And by the way, if you don't get out of the way, they will
Yeah.
put you out of the
Yeah.
way. So which
Hillary's
is what,
very comfortable and familiar with these types of
Yeah,
speeches.
Especially with that last
you wind
name.
up becoming
Also,
suicidal.
Ludacris also has a similar phrase. Move, blank. Get out the way. Get out the way.
The thing is with RFK, I asked him right at the beginning. I told him right up front. I said, I'm not sure how much you know about my politics, but I used to be, a traditional liberal and a Democrat and all that. I cannot associate myself with the Democrat Party. I said, why are you still a Democrat? And he kind of fumbled. I like him a lot. We had a great conversation, but he sort of mumbled and fumbled through the beginning of the answer. He doesn't know, from what I can tell, he does not know why he's a Democrat anymore, other than his name is
Do
Kennedy.
you think he's a Democrat?
Well, he's running as a Democrat.
But do you think he's a
No,
Democrat?
I think what he is in essence is he's somewhere roughly where I am, which is that he's a disaffected liberal who in many ways is a libertarian and then has some
Classical
use of the
liberal
government.
type
Yeah,
of-
so he's an old school liberal
I know the
for the
type.
most part.
I know the type. They're great people.
Which in essence, in my view, that means you really have to vote for Republicans, and you're on what I would say is the more moderate wing of the Republican side, but that's a whole other thing. But I thought it was interesting. He also told me that he has had no contact with the Democrat Party. Now get that. Think about that. When you talk about how they'll move you out of the way, this guy's polling at 20 some odd %. His name is Kennedy. He's getting a lot of juice in our world. And he has had they will not take his call.
How
What does
surprising
tell
is that,
you?
though?
No, it's not surprising at all.
They want to anoint Biden.
He's lucky
and
if they don't
wheel
kill
him
him.
on in.
Yeah,
and throw him on the-
Dave, I was saying if this was the 70s, he probably would have been killed. They would have killed him already.
You ever seen
Patience,
the document-
patience.
You
Yeah.
ever seen the documentary?
Jesus, guys.
You ever seen the documentary of Bush Sr. and how it ends? The end of the Bush. Type in George Bush Sr. Ross Perot. If you type in YouTube, if you type in George Bush Sr. Ross Perot, he's being asked questions about a lot of different people.
Ross Perot ruined his career.
Well, and at the end he says, so it's a very nice documentary. Everything's going smooth. It's going to be hard to find it. I mean, it's the end of the documentary.
Ross
I'll find
Perot.
it on Twitter and I'll retweet it. So, and he says, so President Bush, what do you have to say about Ross Perot? Oh, I don't want to talk about that man. I don't want to talk about it. And it's the only time in the document, it's in the last 5 minutes of the documentary where he gets angry talking about Ross Perot.
What
okay?
literally cost him the election in 92.
And by the way, RFK is literally going to cost Biden and everybody on the left the election. Biden is senior. RFK could be Ross
If
Perot.
he runs third party, you mean?
He will. He has no choice because here's what's going to happen. Let me kind of go through with you. So here's a guy that's with him last week, RFK. We had a very good conversation together 2 weeks ago, he and I. I called him out of the blue. I said, you crush it on News Nation. Absolutely. On every issue, you were unbelievable. And he says, thank you for the call. And but if you think about it, Dems are not calling you, okay? Why would they call you? So where are you going to get your support from? You can't, hey, Charlie says, hey, why don't you come and talk to Turning Point USA? You saw his answer. He says, hey, I don't know if you know or not, I'm running as a Democrat, not as a Republican. Why would I come? Okay, so I get it, because if he goes, his concern is everybody in the mainstream media is going to say he's a closet Republican. That's what they would have put him as. He knows what the games are going to be. This is a guy that's a pretty strategic guy.
I kept thinking he's just saying the things that I thought 5 years ago about myself, like, if I talk to those people too much,
He only has one option.
Yeah.
But by the way, he's not a Republican. He's not a Republican.
No, he's not.
He's not a
Abortion, climate change.
He's not a Republican, yeah. Even affirmative action, he's not a Republican, right? You saw what he said with affirmative action.
We got into it,
What happened the other day with the other stuff, the clip, maybe we'll show the thing that's hurt him this week with the cause of COVID and all this stuff. We can get some commentary on that as well. But to me, he is a libertarian, classical liberal, is who he is. And for a guy like him, the moment they oust him, do you think RFK comes across as a guy that just disappears and goes in his own way and on his own and just kind of retires and doesn't do anything and goes to the gym and works out at Gold's Gym? No,
He'll do that, but he'll still
this
stay
is
in the
a guy
race.
who went after the number one guy that everybody was afraid of going after, which was Antonio Fauci. And he writes a book about him, okay? and not any book, a book that blows up and gets viral with all research, and nobody went and said, well, this is inaccurate, well, this is inaccurate. It was all research, studies. Nobody could try. Bro, don't talk about that book.
Just don't talk to him.
Don't talk about what this guy did with AIDS and how much money they would get. So, okay, now you want to go against him, NIH, CDC, all that stuff. You think this guy's fairer than anybody? This guy's got brass balls is what he's got. He's going to run as an independent, and whoever the Republican candidate is going to be, this guy's going to be their number one ally.
Well, let me ask you this.
Well, let me just
Yeah,
in one
my
thing here, because
prediction,
I actually
could be wrong. I'm just telling you this is my prediction.
gut feeling is he's not going to run as an independent, but I will give you the future for him, what I think is an actual positive future, and I think I might have planted a seed with him when we chatted. That the reason I don't think he will is I think he so believes. He's struggling to realize what the Democrat Party is, but that thing, the Kennedy Democrat thing, is so in his blood. I think he would struggle with the idea of sort of being the guy that destroyed the Democrat Party as an independent run. But how about this? How about this one for you? If you want that good out for him, how about, because I asked him at the end of our interview, I said, we know your feelings about Trump. We know your feelings about Biden. What do you think about DeSantis? And he basically, for 3 minutes, right at the end of the interview, gave a beautiful all the reasons why he thinks DeSantis is great with COVID, lockdowns, all of that stuff. Then at the end, I could sense suddenly he was like, oh shit, I just said too many good things about a Republican. I better say something. And then he kind of, in a very flippant way, was like, but he's mean. Like that was the thing.
He throws a baseball like a girl.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like he needed to do something, right? He suddenly was like, I got to do something because he's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. Now, I don't think he actually really believes it. I think it was just what sort of came out of his mouth at that moment. But here's the out for him, because I don't think it's going to be third party. The out is, now imagine you have DeSantis as president, whoever the VP is. It's not going to be RFK. You have whoever the VP is. How about he brings on RFK to do exactly what RFK has done for the last 40 years, which is attack these agencies and blow apart the agencies.
As a VP?
No, not as VP. So you bring in whoever as VP. I think it could be Kim Reynolds. Is my gut feeling, but it doesn't matter again.
Kim Reynolds for who? DeSantis?
For VP as DeSantis. Yeah.
I
I definitely think that's possible. But putting that aside, if you bring him on as the, let's call it the czar of demolishing the agencies. He's going to be the guy that goes to NIH. He's going to be the guy that goes to CDC. He's going to be the guy that goes to the Department of Education. The guy who has been a lawyer fighting these monsters for so many years, and that's the exact job you give him. And it's also somewhat apolitical, so you don't have to agree with him on abortion. You don't have to agree with him on climate change, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's something he would relish in doing.
In order for that to happen, the greatest governor during COVID has to fully commit to being a better marketer, because there's zero chance that'll happen if he goes the way he's going today. And I'm telling you right now, remember the phrase I said. I didn't say zero chance it's going to happen. I said zero chance it's going to happen if he goes the way he's going today.
Right, so that brings us to the earlier conversation.
So for me, now let's say that doesn't happen. Okay, let's just say Trump is a nominee, because right now after Turning Point USA, 85%, some of the polls, let's just say he's got a big lead, whatever, 72%.
But that poll, that's like going to an Elvis fan club and asking how many of you like Elvis more than Frank Sinatra.
By the way, pull up the polls right now anyways. Pull up the polls right now.
Can I make one quick point about RFK? And it kind of goes back to your point that you were making with George W. Bush and Ross Perot in '92, and essentially playing spoiler. And the conversation about running as a third party, we don't think he's going to do it, but he might do it. The third party situation, you get the Libertarians, you get the Green Party, Andrew Yang, the Ford Party, I don't know what's going on with that. How familiar are you guys with what's going on with this no labels party? It's starting to pop up in conversations, and a lot of private equity guys, I guess, have pumped in $100 million, whatever the crazy number is. It's they're going to kind of see how it goes, and they're going to look at who's the nominees, and they're going to sort of pick a Republican and a Democrat, or they're going to do a Democrat and Republican, and sort of torpedo who they don't want to win. How familiar with this situation?
I know a little bit about them. I mean, they've been around for a while. It seems to be getting a little bit of steam right now. But these things happen every couple of years, and nothing really happens with it. It sort of reminds me of like a Yang kind of situation, where it's like Yang all along, all the sort of liberals who weren't complete woke maniacs were all like, I support Andrew Yang, because it was the easiest, simplest thing to do, instead of saying you support Trump or you're just not going to vote Democrat. So these organizations kind of come around every now and again. A few people who don't really want to make a decision about anything because they want to go to nice parties, they support it, and then nothing ever changes.
PBD, you're kind of nodding your head.
No, I'm not. Listen, okay, guys. Andrew Yang, vanilla. We had him on the podcast. I'm like, dude, why do you say something? It's boring listening to you right now. So what happened? I said, you sound boring. I don't know if you remember this or no.
Yeah, but he'll give you minimum wage to sit there and listen, so that's good.
Say something.
He heated up at the end, and we're like, all right, we got to wrap up.
Okay, John Kasich, vanilla.
Yeah.
Andrew Yang, vanilla. You go to any of these candidates that just want to say the right things, to kind of Mike Pence right now is
that is
not
as
only
vanilla white toast
but
as
it's
it gets.
also establishment language is what he's
disgusting.
got. Okay, so if you go to some of these names, the one thing with RFK that's very different and with Ross Perot that's very different, both of these guys are 100% true believers.
Yes.
They're not acting. There is no acting with RFK. RFK is like, this is who I am. Listen, as an environmental lawyer, this is the guy that if he's going to sue you, this is RFK if he sues you. You know who he is? You know how sometimes most lawyers, they want to sue you, what do? Lazy lawyers. What do lazy lawyers do? They set up a meeting. Hey, man, look, my client's got this. You're probably not going to get this. It's probably going to be 3 years over this. And they're going to say, why don't we settle this for 2 years and $500,000 and da-da-da-da. That's what lazy lawyers do. And 90% of lawyers are lazy. They just want to settle behind closed doors. Then you have the 10%. Then you have the 1%. Then you have the 0.1% of the annoying lawyers. RFK is that annoying lawyer you don't want to go up against. And he found, how many hours do you think he spent writing that book to research everything he possibly can on Fauci? So the reason why I'm saying this, when a person put that much time, business owners, there's going to come a time when you run a company that you hit a breaking point. And this breaking point is the following. It's like playing poker. You're playing poker and you're like, all right, you're slow. Play, you're like, shit, 50%, river, I'll go again, another one, and then comes the river. And you don't know if the guy hit it, because you missed it, but you got a nice, decent pair, but you don't know if the guy hit the river, he got his flush or the straight or whatever it may be, right? You have to sit there and you got to be like, you either, like, I'm good, I'm out, or you're, okay, I'll call you. RFK is all in. There is no going back with RFK. This is not a guy that's having somebody telling him what to tell the world. RFK doesn't have a marketing guy telling him, say this, say that, say this. He's such a true believer and fearless that he's telling you what he believes in, and he doesn't give a shit if you like it or not. He's exposing these guys. There is something very attractive. By the way, marketing isn't about, Tony Robbins, and you can do it.
Yeah.
That's not marketing. RFK, with his voice, but because he's going so deep in the way he exposes everybody, that is a form of marketing and storytelling and exposing. I think this guy is going to go. The Democrats are going to trash him. I think the Democrats haven't even started with the whole demonizing of addict, heroin, did you know this, ex-wife. I don't think they've even started yet. Like, they're going to start in about 6 to 12 months. Watch when they start trashing RFK, saying stuff that's so embarrassing, they're just hanging on to that. And they're going to make the call. You know what he's going to say? He's going to say, go right ahead, man. You guys have played this on me for a long time. He's not going to let him do that. And then, when behind closed doors, he's by himself, and he's not on the debate stage with Biden, and he's going to be by himself sitting there saying, you killed my dad, you killed my uncle. 28 years old, I went through a 14 year of dealing with drugs because what you guys, the establishment, did to ruin my family, and look what you've done now. You've divided. My own sister's publicly calling me out. No problem. Watch, I'm doing this now for my dad you guys killed. I get the chills thinking about that fire. You can't fabricate that fire. When I look at RFK, I see that fire. It's very unique. It's not can you give me the 17 scripts on what to say to hit this point, hit this point? He's not that guy. This is a true believer. So this is why I believe for him, it would be a shame, and I'll say this, if he's watching this, it would be a shame if the Democrats don't give him the stage and the time to sell his time. He's like, get out of here. Just why don't you step it out like Hillary Clinton, step out of the way like they did to Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, all those other guys. It would be a shame if he didn't run as a third party. It would be a shame. If I'm a betting man, I would be so disappointed if RFK didn't run as a third party. I would be so. I would be so disappointed and surprised if he didn't eventually run as a third party. You have to. They're not going to give you the stage time, and your message has to be heard by everybody. There's a reason why you're doing so well. There's a reason why when you talk, he goes on a podcast, like I'll go on, the way I gauge it, I'll go on YouTube, right? So I'll say, all right, let me see how that guy did as an interviewee, as a guest, not interviewer, right? How do you do as a guest? Because some people are very good interviewers, but they're not good guests. You can go on a guest. Nobody wants to watch your podcast because once they watch 1 or 2 of your videos, it's the same stories. They kind of know what you are. You can't give opinions on this and this and this and go 7 layers deep on finance and 6 layers deep on politics and family and this and like, we already know what you stand for. It's done, right? And you go on YouTube. I'll go on Fox and I'll say, okay, DeSantis is on. How many views? 160,000 views. Damn. 728,000 views. Man. Vivek was getting 30,000 views, then he was getting 40,000 views, now 280,000 views. Interesting. So RFK, 2.8 million, 2.2 million, 1.6 million. And he talked about this, and he talked about this. Guys, it's so difficult to compete with a true believer. And again, if I am a betting man, he's going to run as a third party. All he's thinking about is dad and his uncle and the legacy of the men who came before him, that they killed him. The establishment killed his dad and his uncle. 2 of his heroes they killed. That doesn't go away. That doesn't go away. And sometimes in a family, you know, it's like a crisis takes place. You don't know which of the guys, like you almost have to kill everybody in that family because that's gonna stay. And they didn't kill this guy. Sometimes you kill the wrong guy and you're like, yeah, we have to be careful with that guy. Don't worry, that guy just wants the girls.
Yeah.
He just wants to be on cover magazines. That guy in the back that you didn't kill was the one that loved mom, dad, legacy more than anybody else. You screwed up. And guess what? 30 years later, wake up call. He's been waiting for this moment. That's what I think.
I think the key part of what you're saying is, can he have that come to Jesus moment with the Democrat Party? Can he really fully realize?
Not going to happen.
No, I'm saying, can he have the moment where he realizes how evil it is and then makes the move that you're saying? Because again, having just interviewed him, even when I talked to him about affirmative action, it was very clear to me, you know, because he was against the decision. So meaning he's for affirmative action, which to me is systemic racism. Yep. If you look at a bunch of people by their skin color and decide who can go to what college or get what job, et cetera.
Which I disagree with.
I completely disagree.
Sure.
I made my feelings clear, but it was interesting listening to him rationalize it, because he was using a lot of old Democrat logic, meaning, oh, well, I grew up in Jim Crow South and I know what it was like. He says all of that, gives you all of that, and I know that the Democrats were fighting for the black people and all that. And then, but when he gets us now to 2023, he's like, but, you know, you don't really solve former discrimination with current discrimination. And I actually get your point, Dave, and I don't feel very strongly about this. Oh, wow. So he's struggling, that's his internal struggle that probably sits right next to everything that you just laid out there. I want to burn these MFers down, but I also still have these weird associations with the party that my father basically built. So that's
he's one of the most
that's a challenge.
He is like when the Democrats go to sleep at night and they fear one person. If I were to put top 3 names on that list, one of them is RFK today. Yeah, they can't stand him. They fear him. They're so annoyed by him. They hate the attention he's getting. They hate the fact that he's loved. The one thing that all these guys can't get, he's getting. Why do they love him so much? I'm more important. Don't they realize I'm a president? He's not even a president. I'm the guy that made it to the top. Why do you guys love him more than I do? I'm Hillary Clinton. Why are you guys giving him so much attention? People are not realizing that there's a big difference between those who planned on one day becoming a president, like a Hillary Clinton, who in the womb, her first word when she came out, President, emails. Emperor, you know, and then, you know, it's like, okay, and then, no, this guy's like, no, man, I just want to be around my dad. I just want to be around my family.
And don't forget, he is a Kennedy on the list of Democratic names of all time. You know, arguably, you get Biden right down at the bottom, you got Obama, you got Clinton. Upper echelon, top of the list, Kennedy. And the DNC does not want him making waves. Quick question, because you brought up the word voice, and you just interviewed him. Yeah. It's a very simple question.
No, he has a...
What is the situation with his voice?
You can Google it. He has an actual medical condition that's leading to the issue. And believe it or not, I do think, you know, sometimes we talk about these sort of ephemeral issues or the things that you can't quite put your finger on. Whatever the condition that he has, I think we can find it here. I actually do think that affects a certain amount of people's ability to listen to him. It's an unfortunate piece.
Oh, but it does, Dave. People are like asking what's going on with his voice.
Oh, I guess it's a neurological, dysphonia, I think it's called.
Well, PBD, how many times have you interviewed RFK?
Multiple times.
Right, and you speak to him on the phone. So what's your take on the situation? Medical condition, and that's pretty much it?
Listen, let me explain to you how life works and how weird these things are, okay? I went to an event in November of 2003. I was in Pasadena. Billy Graham is speaking. And this is the phase where I'm kind of struggling with, you know, faith and all this stuff. I'm an atheist, but I'm Christian, and I'm kind of like, you know, I take this girl who's a Persian. She's with UNICEF and UCLA girl, and I'm taking all these guys. We're sitting there. This is how Billy Graham spoke. And today, we are here, 100,000 of us, at the old Pasadena Rose Bowl. And he's talking like this, okay? He says, I only have one message for you. And one person says, in the side, starts screaming, you're the Antichrist, you're this, you're the devil, you're this. And everybody gets upset. He says, let him say everything he wants to say. For 5 minutes, he doesn't say anything. And he lets this person rant, okay? Lets this person rant. And he says, all I have to tell you is God loves you. Do you know when he was speaking like that? Adam, the entire, you know how it was? It was like this. Why are you moving? Oh, stop opening the chips. I can't hear the guy. Stop. Dude, sit down. Can you, shh. We were all like, 100,000 people at Rose Bowl. I went every single day to watch him for 4 days, except for one day because I was doing the training on Saturday morning. And I watched this man. He didn't have energy. He walked up in a walker. And, you know, you're just listening to this guy. But what you felt, 100%, was a man's conviction. Dude, conviction communicates in ways that a great motivational speech written by the greatest motivational speakers, double checked by ChatGPT and everybody else, it'll never resonate with people. What RFK has that very few of these people have is conviction. And that's what you and I feel. When we watch him speak, we feel the conviction. It's very unique. And there's a reason why it's resonating, it's creating momentum. So for me, as a guy that's interviewed him and talked to him multiple times, and people would say this stuff about his voice, sometimes people like that, they're like more like, wow, did he just, oh, wow. Oh, wow. I would have said this 3 years ago. It's an issue. I don't think it's an issue today, this much.
So not on the marketing side of it.
No, I don't.
But what do you feel, so for the things that you differ with him, probably abortion, probably affirmative action.
Oh, guys,
definitely some economics.
I don't want to make it seem like he's my candidate.
Right.
I'm not sitting here telling you that. Yeah. No, not at all. I don't agree with him with affirmative action. I don't agree with him with, you know, other areas politically. All I'm saying, what I respect about him, you know, the old Bernie Sanders. I respected about Bernie because Bernie really believed in what he was talking about when he was going against anti-establishment until all of a sudden they scared the crap out of him and he stepped out. I don't think you can do to him what you did to Bernie. I don't think you can do that to him. I just don't. You know, in life, when you go through, when you've lived a hard life, everybody has lived a little bit of a hard life, but some people have really lived a hard life. And there's, you know how they say there's level to, you know, I made $100,000 last year. Great, bro. I made $1 million last year. Great. You go walk into a room with a bunch of deca-millionaires at a country club. I made $10.2 million. Oh, my God. That guy walks into a room, made $117 million. Oh, my God. $117 million guy goes into billionaire. I'm a billion. Oh, shoot. The billionaire goes into the deca. I'm a 12 billion. The 12 billion goes to Elon Musk. And then Elon Musk goes to Putin or a couple of the oil guys. He's like, oh, shit, I don't have oil money, right? But the point is, there's also levels to pain. Think about the biggest pains you can experience in life. You know what happens to a man that has experienced that? You have a man like Teddy Roosevelt. You lose a kid. You lose a wife. You lose the people you love. You lose troops, peers, best friends. Bro, you've been broken so many fucking times. Like, you just like, throw whatever the hell you want to throw at me. That's where I'm freaking at. I'm not afraid of you. Throw any shit you want to throw at me. You can't break me. I may be wrong, but as a guy that gets paid to read people, this is my job for the last 23 years as a person that's ran a sales organ. I have to read whether you're full of shit, whether you're going to do the work or not. That's what I get paid in the industry I'm a part of. I get a feeling RFK is as real as it gets. And, you know, we have this one misconception about marriage, relationship, friendships, candidates that we have to agree with 100% of what this person believes in. I think that's a naive way of thinking. I think that's an elitist way of thinking. I think that's an arrogant way of thinking. You and I don't agree on everything in life. But dude, I love you.
Yeah.
I love spending time with you. I actually truly, when I see you, I sincerely get happy when I see you. I'm like, I like this guy, right? We don't agree on everything, but I like your company. Like, I have a lot of people around me that's like that.
I'm still working on you. You know?
No. You know,
I'll
for
get
me,
you there. Don't worry about that.
Keep going, Dave.
Give us a couple years.
Yeah.
We'll baptize you
I'll
as
let
well.
you talk,
Trust me.
you know?
Just hang around, Dave. We're pretty good at persuading people. But the point I'm making here is I don't need to agree with 100% of what RFK says. I don't need to agree with 100% of what Trump does or DeSantis does or any of these guys. What I am against is manipulation.
Yeah.
I don't feel manipulation with RFK. What I am against is the dark and the establishment stuff. I don't feel that with him. So if you're sincerely wanting to go at bat with me and we're competing but you're sincere about it, I actually respect you. But if you have dark vibes, you're not going to have problems. I don't get that feeling from RFK at all.
Well, I completely agree with that, and I definitely feel the same way about you on a personal note. But I can tell you, after doing the hour with him, even though we have those disagreements, I didn't discuss those disagreements with my team at all. It was like those things do not matter. The heart, the spirit of what you're talking about, that's the thing that matters with him. That's the zeitgeist thing that, again, I think we're talking about how DeSantis doesn't have that, at least as of yet. And those things are, you got to figure out how to deal with those two things. And you also have to figure out, again, the two questions that I said at the beginning.
Yeah.
Do you in terms of who you're going to vote for, do you roughly agree with this guy on the policy stuff? And do you think he can do it? That's separate than what you're talking about on like the purely spiritual mission that he seems to be on.
But RFK has a secret weapon. I don't know if you know this. Do you know who his wife is now?
Yeah.
He's married to Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm's wife.
Cheryl Hines, yeah.
So there's a marketing guru behind the scenes pulling some strings.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know.
What do you mean? That's his wife.
I understand that's his wife, but DeSantis has got Casey, and trust me, Casey's I would put Casey as number one. I don't put anybody ahead of Casey. I'm not when I watch Casey, I'm watching and I'm like, oh my God, you have my vote. Who are you as a first lady? Full-blown qualities, communication of being somebody that I believed her. There was not. I'm like, I like this girl,
and she looks like Jackie Kennedy.
Yeah.
I mean, find a picture of her in one of those outfits that she wears, like at inauguration, and then compare that to
I told
a Jackie
Casey
Kennedy
DeSantis
picture. Yeah.
to her face when we all met. I said, you should speak
Yeah.
as much as possible. By the way, I wasn't speaking about RFK's wife. I'm talking about Larry David.
Yeah. No, I get
his
that.
corner.
Well, you know
does
who's
he have
Biden's,
Larry David in his corner?
Of
I
course.
doubt.
you know
I
who's
doubt it.
Biden's
Do you know
campaign
that
manager?
for sure?
You know who's Biden's campaign manager?
Hunter.
No. That's his.
I don't know. Who's the
That's his
president of
dealer.
CNN?
Do you know who's playing the role? It's Katzenberg. Katzenberg is a guy that's behind closed doors. Is essentially like the campaign manager that's doing all this stuff. Well, why wasn't Biden here? We don't think he needs to right now. We think it's too early. We don't think we need to use our money and our resources. We had a
Which
record.
Katzenberg?
The Katzenberg.
Jeffrey.
The producer?
Yes.
Movie producer?
Yes. If you can Google this, I think it's the same Katzenberg.
If he produced
Let me-
Weekend at Bernie's, he's going to do the Weekend at Bernie's
Just
3
put Katzenberg,
this time around
put
with Joe
Katzenberg, put
Biden.
Biden. Just put those together, okay? Put Katzenberg, Biden, zoom in, any of the stories, okay? Biden's age
Yeah, this is
his
the new meme.
superpower in 2024.
Jeez.
Katzenberg is the guy, the ex-CEO, Deep China, wife ties, donates $1.7 million.
Yep.
Anyways, let me say the last thing about DeSantis. Let me say the last thing about DeSantis. I think, so, okay, you mentor different people and you see certain things about them. You know your insecurities. I know my insecurities. Most people have insecurities. Some try to hide it. Some are very good at permanently hiding it. And then some people are like, this is my insecurity. Like, Adam came and he says, hey, Charlie, you got a big head. He says, no, I have a big head. He says, no, I actually have a very big head, right?
No, I said, your head looks a lot smaller.
Yeah.
He goes, I've lost weight
Great
in my
opening
face.
line.
Yeah.
Great opening line.
Yeah. That big head just went
But
down.
you know what? Here's a question for
Yeah.
you. Here's a question for you. Who do you think in life has made the least amount of mistakes? Watch this question. In life, who's made the fewest amount of dumb decisions in his life? RFK, Trump, Biden, DeSantis, Pence. Who do you think's made the fewest mistakes?
DeSantis by
I'd
far.
say, yeah,
By
DeSantis.
far.
Yeah.
That's the
Yes.
problem. That's the problem. Why is that a problem?
What an interesting point.
You ever met
Other than he's
people-
much younger. but
Dude, let
he's
me
played it
tell. No,
safe.
that's not it. That's got nothing to do with it. RFK, Vivek is super young. It's not the. Vivek, I think, is 38. I don't know how old
38, I
Vivek
think.
is. 38 or
Yes.
39. It's got nothing to do with
insane.
age. This has got to do with who's made the fewest mistakes is DeSantis. Do you know nobody puts more pressure on DeSantis than himself? I don't know the dynamics of how he was raised with mom and dad. We all like to keep a little bit of it as a secret. You know, even in the book Joseph Kennedy I'm reading, Joseph Kennedy doesn't want to reveal a lot about his relationship with his mom and dad. He just doesn't want to be because he wants to identify as I made my own money. He didn't want to give that credit to his parents. When I watch DeSantis, I almost feel like his entire life he's been, nope, I can't kiss that girl because people are going to say this. Nope, I can't punch that guy in the face because they're going to say this. Nope, I can't do this because this. Nope, I can't say that because of, nope, I can't read this because one day if I ever run and they find out I wrote this paper in my graduate, they're going to say this. I think he's that guy. And I think he needs to have a one-on-one conversation with himself and say, listen, man, it's okay to make mistakes, bro. All these candidates have made more mistakes than you. America doesn't relate to perfect people. America relates to broken people. America relates to people who have made mistakes. America relates to people that are not perfect. He is too perfect.
Did you happen to see the video during COVID when he actually broke down crying when he was explaining that they had locked down those people and people didn't get to say
Yes.
goodbye to their parents?
Yes.
I think that's the moment that you're looking for. You're looking for that sort of honesty. It's interesting because I'm with you on that, but to another extent, this also strikes me sort of like the marketing thing. We're holding something against the guy, like we're sort of saying he's too functional in a way, and that to me strikes me a bit as, oh, he's accomplishing too many of the things we want. He's too functional. He does it. He doesn't make these crazy mistakes. He doesn't have the sloppy errors
That's
on
not
the
what I'm
side.
saying.
No, I know that's not exactly what you're saying, but in terms of what we're going to vote for ultimately, like we've got a guy that really has the package. I think I agree with you that there is a vulnerability that maybe we should see a little bit more, a certain raw passion we should see a little bit more, and that's why I think that moment that I just referenced was a good one.
I know. I actually think this is Ron has got to go away. I don't know how many times in my life.
You want him to do ayahuasca? That's where
no,
this is
not
going.
ayahuasca. No.
Ron, if you're looking for a partner, I can help you out, buddy.
No.
Rogan.
But let me tell you, a lot of times I would say, Jen, I'll see you at dinner. I'm staying at the Four Seasons. I got to go think. And you would come into my room, and there was all these, these big papers that you write on. But I like the ones with the tape in the back where you can tape against the wall. You would come into my room, and there's like 60 of them against the wall. Here's what I'm going to do with this part of my Tico. I want to do this to raise them this way. Here's what my plan is with Dylan this way. Here's what I want to do with this company. This is what I want to do with this part of my health. I don't like my weight. I'm at 258. Can't stand it. Here's what I want to do with my marriage. This is what I want to do with God. This is what I want to do with my finances. This is what I want to do with my investments. And everything is how to get there, right? But the most important part when I did these exercises, and I got away from everybody, including my wife, I don't want anything. You can get a hold of me. The only person that can get a hold of me is my wife. I'm in my room. Trust me. Call me. I'm right here, right? Phone is off. Everything's gone. I would go in the sauna and I would sit there, and for 2 hours I'm in the sauna, jacuzzi, all this stuff, and I'm just thinking, what do you want to do next? What are you doing this for? Why do you need to make the next move? Why do we need to go to the next level? You versus you, PBD. Nobody exists. This has to matter to you. Why? Every time, if I got to the moment where I'm breaking down by myself, I always came out with better moves. This guy needs to take a break from everybody. Get away for 2 days. It's not a long time. Take a Saturday and a Sunday in Jacksonville. Get in a car. You can't go to a hotel, so he's got to kind of figure out a way to go to a place that nobody can, security, everybody can be outside. You need to be away from everybody. And you need to have a conversation with you. One time on a flight back from Chicago, I took a notepad and I wrote down why I'm afraid of getting married and why I don't want to get married. I have that paper till today. I bring it back, I put it in my Samsonite, and I'm just writing. Well, because of this happened this, because of this, because of that, because of this, because of that. Finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm good. Let's roll. Now, you ain't going to get perfect, but let's roll. See what happens with it. Okay? I had to go through that moment in a plane. I'm like sitting like this because I don't want anybody to see me. I don't think this is a, let's try to change Ron. I don't think this is a, hey, Ron, you better say these 17 phrases. I don't think this is, go give these 19 phrases. All that stuff is the how-to. I think the why-to is, why do you give a shit so much? Go back and see you're a good guy. You're doing the right things. You ain't perfect. Like this whole thing of walking on eggshells around yourself, it's got to kind of stop. Like, go play ball, and you may lose. All good. Or you may win. All good. But the way you're going right now, of what you're doing, I think you're going back to being so afraid of what are people going to say if I say this or write this or do that, and it's holding you back. Anyways. We can go to the next. I'll give you the final thoughts here before we move away from DeSantis.
No, listen, you're talking about something existential, something ephemeral, and something that captures that zeitgeist thing that I think is right. You're doing like a Jordan Peterson move on him that I think probably would translate into something that he wants, which ultimately is to become president, right? To win this thing and do it. So I actually don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. And also, it's just a matter of, I think we all have to accept that, you know, we might sit here as relatively functional people and be like, boy, I just want the guy who's the best. I don't need all the magic tricks. I don't need all the viralness. I don't need all of those things. A certain amount of people do. A certain amount of people do, whether we like it or not. So if that's a piece that seems to be missing, you're obviously not the only person saying it. I actually don't. I actually do agree with that.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to go to the next topic. I want to show a couple of the clips of what happened with Pence's last day of running for office and Asa Hutchinson.
Last day of being in business, yeah.
But again, guys, we're about to announce at the end of this year the first town hall we're doing in this building. That'll happen on August 4th, and the tickets are going to sell out the moment especially the VIP ones, where you're going to meet the candidate and go in the back with the cigar lounge. And this person's actually wanting to go to the cigar lounge and meet many of you. Text the word podcast to 310-340-1132. Once again, 310-340-1132. We'll send a link the moment I announce it at the end of the podcast. So can you play this clip? Tucker Carlson, okay? Tucker Carlson, conversation that's been coming up with him on I asked everybody at Turning Point USA who went there, and I'm asking different guys to tell me, who were the stars of the best messages they gave, right? Who were the stars? Some say, obviously, Trump. Then they say Ronald, what is his name? The gentleman, Byron.
Oh, Byron Daniels?
Donalds.
Byron Donalds.
Byron Donalds.
Yeah.
Crushed it.
Right from Southwest Florida.
Forgive me for not knowing his name. I know who this guy is.
Who he is.
He's a congressman from Fort Myers area. The guy's
he is a stud.
Answer. Hey,
black guy?
How do you feel about all the ladies were waving you kisses? He says, that's great, but the only one that I'll receive and kiss back is my wife. He's a very good communicator. He's got charm.
I've seen him before.
I heard Trump. Yes. I heard Tucker. I heard him. I heard Kirk. Were the best speakers, but a lot of people said Tucker kind of stole the show as well.
Tucker was amazing.
Tucker kind of stole the show. What I heard from a lot of people. But before that event at the Blaze, here's what happened when he asked a very friendly question of a man named Mike Pence. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He was a former vice president. Here's what happened here. If you can play this, Rob, go for it.
Along the way, the Biden administration has been slow in providing military support. Make no mistake about this. We promised them 33 Abrams tanks in January. I heard again 2 weeks ago in Ukraine, they still don't have them. We've been telling them we'll train their F-16 pilots, but now they're saying maybe January we'll let somebody transfer some jets.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President, have you, I know you're running for president. You are distressed that the Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years. Yeah. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States.
Miami. He's not even making eye contact, Dave. No eye contact. Look.
The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. And yet, your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern.
It's not my concern.
Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern. I'm running for president of the United States because I think this country's in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
I think that's
the epitome of
none of that makes sense to me.
Well, there's so much stupidity there.
It's not your concern, but you're concerned. But
we did a Marge Simpson reference. I mean, he comes off as a 1994 Simpsons Republican, right? Like the caricature at the castle with the lightning, sitting with Mr. Burns.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The other thing, this idea that he's upset with Biden because we promised him 33 Abrams tanks in January. If let's say we gave him 66, we doubled it. Does anyone think the war would be going any differently? It's just complete nonsense. And then the line, that's not my concern. I will give him a little bit of a leash on that because I think he just actually, because he's such a robot, I don't think he meant it that way, like I'm not concerned about America. I think he meant I'm not concerned the way you're framing this question. But Adam, you brought up a great point. When Tucker says all the cities in America are crumbling, Miami is not crumbling. Plenty of cities in Florida are not crumbling. And Nashville's not crumbling. I mean, there are some cities that aren't.
Not every city in America is doing worse.
No,
certain
but
are.
The ones that are doing well all
certain
happen
are
to be
thriving.
Yeah,
of course.
Well, it does make me happy seeing that, though, Dave, and loving that Americans are just done with that.
Yeah, there's
carbon cutout. His hair. It's just, imagine, he's not making any eye contact. He's just looking in the audience like he's getting votes. It's like, bro, people are done with that.
What do you think he's doing? Because is this just purely to do a little cleanup job on the association with Trump? That he's like, I'll try it so that maybe I'll be remembered for that?
Yes.
Instead of the Trump thing? Like,
yes, Dave.
Do you know one person that's supporting him? One person that even thinks he should be running?
He got half the votes Tim Scott got on that one poll that we ran. No, he's done. I think I asked the same question with Chris Christie. Like, what is Chris Christie and him doing? You're not going to win. So what job are you trying to get? Are you trying to get a job on what? Biden administration? Or is it, we can go to the dark side, which the dark side is what? Hey, Mr. Pence, who has lived a perfect life. These are 3 things we know about you that we found on how you searched for Google, and you searched on this on that day, and you did this and you did that. Just want to let you know, you better respect, or else this is going to be released. And when it does, your grandkids are always going to look at daddy as a perv, and they're going to, I'm not saying this is the truth or not.
Right.
The only reason a person sounds like this, look at the look on his face right there. Look at that. The only person a person talks like this is because they're scared and they're trying to prevent something from happening. You can't suddenly flip like this. Look, Scottie Pippen writes his book that flops. In the interview, they asked him, and they said, so how do you want to be remembered as? Do you remember his answer?
I don't.
He says, I want to be remembered as the greatest of all time. Did you hear what he said? I want to be remembered as the greatest of all time. By the way, Scottie Pippen is a top 50 of all time. Okay?
Top 50.
But he's not a greatest of all time. Mike Pence is not a top 1,000 or 500 in that space. Okay? He's a good guy. He's a good man. He's a good husband. He's done very good with his family. But he can't say, I want to be the president and out to Trump. No, you're not that guy. So the motive behind it is kind of funky, where he's a role player to disrupt and kind of mess up somebody that's ahead of him. He's a pawn that's being used by somebody. Because aside from that, what are you running for?
Yeah.
What are you running for? There's nothing legacy-wise that looks good unless if you believe that insurrection. I saw a video the other day that showed the following. It shows the video of, the CNN guy is doing the interview, and he's shown in the back there's fires.
Yeah, mostly peaceful protests.
It's mostly
peaceful.
Mostly a peaceful protest.
Churches on fire behind.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here.
Peaceful men and women out here.
Yeah.
They're just upset. And you see January 6th, they're standing in front of, this is an insurrection. These guys. Okay, flamboyant, you're selling all this stuff. And Pence, kind of weird. For me, Chris Christie, I can understand it, because Chris Christie, I actually understand Chris Christie more than I understand Pence. Chris Christie is kind of trying to protect his legacy, to go and say, that was a good recommendation with Chris Wray. I actually think Chris Wray's done a good job. So he's defending the recommendations he made. And Chris Christie, probably is envious. I think Chris Christie's more the envious guy. My concern with him, I think he's a type of guy, I'd love to have him on the podcast, but it's very hard. If you want to control the national debt that's ballooned, but you have a hard time controlling your own national debt in your body, you got to first cut off some of that debt of whatever you're eating.
There's a legit optical issue there.
Yeah, so for me,
Optical
I
issue.
actually understand Chris Christie's fight. I don't understand Pence's fight at all. And by the way, watch what he did with Asa. You want to play the clip with Asa? Asa's question with COVID was like, game over in 15 seconds. Yeah. This thing didn't last that long. This is a 20-second clip.
He has that haircut, too.
Watch this.
The powers that government did usurp over the past several years is the right to decide what medicine you take in the form of COVID mandates. How did you feel about that? And how many COVID shots did you take? And how do you feel about it now, in retrospect?
How many COVID shots did you take?
0.
0.
But
Just no hesitation.
Look, he's not really running. It's a complete farce. I don't think we have to waste 2 brain cells on Asa Hutchinson. There's an interesting thing here with Tucker, though, because, asking someone their personal medical history is a bit of a slimy move. I like Tucker as much as you do. I was on air at the height of COVID on Fox LA TV with Gloria Allred. Gloria Allred, famous civil rights attorney, Gloria Allred. And she asked me on air, on live TV, if I had been vaccinated. And I said, when was the last time you got laid? Because those questions were equally.
That was a great question you
valid.
asked.
Yeah, that's the moment right there.
Yeah,
Legend.
You have to play this. It's so good. Watch this here.
yes, children could transmit the disease, although they rarely do, but the parents are all vaccinated if they're good, decent citizens. So I don't really understand the connection, actually.
Are you a good, decent citizen? Are you vaccinated?
It's nobody's business whether I'm vaccinated. That's like me asking you the last time you got laid. I mean, it's just irrelevant.
All right, so you know what's really relevant is that it's one thing if you have the right to choose for your...
My medical history is not your business, nor yours is mine.
Let Clary finish.
Beautiful. You know what's so crazy about that clip? That woman is a civil rights attorney. She's a legendary civil rights attorney. The idea that she would go on a television show and ask somebody their medical history is so insane, and then actually try to coerce me and the viewers into doing something that turned out to be complete nonsense. By the way, when I was saying good and decent citizen, I was obviously being sarcastic. Yeah. But the point is that Tucker asking him that was I think there's something to think about there if we want to really go down that road, and I'm not vaxxed and is what it is. But the other thing is, you know, Tucker never said it until then, which I thought was interesting, because he was on Fox for, you know, basically 2 years post mandates and all that nonsense. And it would have been interesting had he said it when he was there, or said, I can't get into the building because I'm not vaxxed. I'm actually, that's not a judgment call on Tucker. I think, you know, everyone has their own calculations, but he obviously was waiting for this moment for quite some time.
So let me ask this question here. So what's Tucker's fight? Okay, so there's a few ways to look at this, right, on what Tucker wants to do. And everybody gives a different answer. Oh, I think he's trying to do this, he's definitely not doing this, he's definitely not doing that, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So a lot of guys, like if you think about the lineage of what makes for a great president, is it former military? Is that what makes for a great president, or those days are 40 years behind us? It's no longer about the military. Is it a great media person who is a celebrity like a Arnold or a Trump? Like, is that what it is? Is it a journalist like a writer, you know, a Churchill, a Netanyahu, somebody that's kind of been in that space where you kind of know every story that's been going on for 10, 20, 30 years?
A businessman.
A businessman is another one, because media could be different than a businessman. Like Arnold is a businessman. Jamie Dimon, you know, Trump, guys like that. What is the best one? So Tucker, is Tucker a great king? Is he a king maker? Is he a talent? Is he a person that is helping out a candidate today because in 2028 he's gonna all of a sudden announce that he's running and he's gonna become a two-term president? Does he want to go out there and be a media mogul billionaire Rupert Murdoch? Does he want to be a Roger Ailes kingmaker? Does he want to be a Rush Limbaugh, replace all of that times 10? What do you think Tucker's next play is?
What's your policy on the F-bomb on the podcast?
No, you're good. It's totally
because
fine.
I'll give you an exact quote from Tucker. The first time Tucker came to my house was in my studio when I lived in Sherman Oaks in LA, and I had my studio in my garage, and it was very early on of anyone actually being independent, building their own studio, all of the stuff that you've now done. He walks into my house, opens the door to the garage. I'm sitting on set already. Opens the door, and this is exactly what he said. He said, "Holy fucking shit, you did it, man." Meaning I had built a television quality, broadcast quality studio in my garage. It blew his mind. He then wrote in the book, he wrote, "You're doing it for all the suckers like me who are getting a paycheck for someone else."
Wow, perspective, Rubin.
So I'll tell you this. I think there's two things there. On the micro level, his biggest desire right now is, I think, to build some sort of network, be the new independent voice, really do what we are doing. Really, I think he sees that as the future. I think he's now incredibly angry at Fox, obviously. I know he's not, he seems very at peace personally, but I mean, there's going to be a vengeance level there. He wants to build new media. And then there may be a political play beyond that. I actually don't really sense that from him. I think he senses, probably like you sense, when people say to you, "Why don't you run for president?" Or when they say to me, "Why don't you run for governor?" It's like, I think there's a way we can affect things in a bigger way from the outside and still maintain our dignity and our good lifestyles and all of those things. I think he's really into that. I think he's happy driving his little golf cart around his little island in Florida and all of those things. So I don't see the political part, but I do see the media empire part. And he loves ideas to shape what the discourse, especially on the right, will be culturally. I think that's his thing.
Well, I mean, the story came out, the fact that, what page is that on, Rob? The story came out about him raising money. There it is. Reuters, Tucker Carlson to create a new media company. Wall Street Journal reports. This is on page 12, and I think they're raising $100 million. Former Fox News host Tucker Carlson and former White House advisor Neil Patel are looking to raise funds to start a new media company that could potentially be anchored on Twitter. The Wall Street Journal reported on Friday the duo is looking to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to fund the company. The report said, citing people familiar with the matter, the company would be anchored by longer versions of the free videos that Carlson has been posting regularly on Elon Musk's Twitter since his departure from Fox News, but would ultimately be driven by subscription. According to the report, Carlson and Fox News agreed to part ways in April after the whole $787 million lawsuit with the Dominion voting system by airing false allegation, rigging claims, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then at the same time, Insider comes out with a story talking about the number of views for Tucker Carlson's new show on Twitter has dropped by 86% since its launch, okay? Tucker Carlson's new show on Twitter has experienced a staggering 86% decline in video since its launch in June. The latest episode garnered 3.8 million views compared to the impressive 26 million views on the first episode. The drop in Carlson's viewership on Twitter coincides with the overall decline on the platform. Twitter advertising sales plummeted by 59% recently, partly attributed to an increase in hate speech. Additionally, Twitter faces competition from Meta's Threads, which gained over 30 million downloads in its first day and received a cease and desist letter from Elon Musk's attorney alleging employee poaching and copying. So, two questions. One,
there's a lot of nonsense there.
Listen, react to all of it. React to all of it. On one, them raising money with Neil Patel, and two, what Insider's saying about his viewership dropping.
Well, let's do the viewership thing first. One thing you didn't mention there that it says in the article is that Twitter right now counts a view as 2 seconds of view time. You would never, for your podcast, count that as a view.
And they change it in May, by the way, to be fair. They change it in May.
So there's some question as to what Twitter is doing on the numbers side, because the numbers don't quite make sense. When he gets 50 million views, it's like, well, does that mean someone just literally scrolled past it on their phone, happened to pick up a drink at that moment, so their phone stopped, and now that counts as a view? So there is some legitimate questions in terms of what's actually a view and how much that's actually worth. You know, even if you do an hour-long show and someone only watches a minute, did they even see an ad? Is there a way to sell that? All of those things. This concept that there's somehow more hate speech on Twitter is sort of absurd because, as the Supreme Court has decided, there's no such thing as hate speech, and actually Twitter is a lot freer now. So if you want to be in a curated, silenced silo, you should go to Threads. But also, you guys probably saw, Threads usage is down by about a quarter in a week. Yep. And Zuckerberg hasn't even posted on the freaking thing in a week. So there's a lot of stuff there. But yes, on the media side, I think he would love to build what we've built on steroids. I think that's the direction.
How successful do you think he's going to be? How big do you think it'll be?
He'll have unbelievable access to money. He'll have unbelievable access to talent. I think he has the cultural zeitgeist. He gets what's going on the right. He also seems in a really good place, sort of mentally and spiritually and philosophically. So I think there's kind of endless upside there.
Rob, I'm texting. By the way, I'm not insulting you by looking at my phone. I'm just trying to get this one because my phone, iPad, all of a sudden started updating. I'm trying to send you these 2 pictures to show on Threads because he did say something about Threads that people need to see. Rob, I just sent it to you here. Here's a couple things I'll say about the whole numbers dropping off, et cetera, et cetera. Well, first of all, he hadn't spoken for a couple months, whatever the timeline was. Then his first video came out. Of course the first video is going to be an unfair expectation that every episode's going to do what the first one's going to do. That's not how stuff works out. You know, you have to be very realistic about that. The first one's going to be 4 to 5 times bigger than anything else you do, and it goes back to the normal numbers that people do. I'm willing to bet out of people who watched the first episode, if I were to ask 1,000 Tucker fans, if you watch the first episode and how many have you watched all the episodes after that, I'm willing to bet 90% is going to say, I watched the first one, but I've probably only seen 1 or 2 other after the next one. That's natural. That's normal. That's going to happen. But, you know, it's great when people want to go after a guy they fear as much as they do with here. Tucker being, you know, Rogan's the GOAT in the podcasting space. Tucker is the GOAT in the mainstream, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's a different kind of a model of a business, but he's also proven that he can do the model of Fox. He can also do this. And even his style of the show, you know, he's reading, and he wrote it himself when he's going to, you know, people maybe helping him out, but it's him saying it, him writing it. But when you also see him when he gave his speech, you know, and he's very animated and he's like loose and he's like, you almost feel like he, you know, it's like, I feel like the handcuffs and shackles are off of, you know, what he can and can't say, and he's letting it rip doing what he's doing. But it's going to be exciting to see what this guy's going to be doing. Rob, I don't know if you have the two different data. I want you to see this, what's happened to them. This is Threads versus Twitter. There was a day where everybody was like, oh my God, I love Threads. I can't stand Twitter. I'm off. I'm going to go black is Threads. So take a look at this. Boom. Threads is ahead of Twitter. For how long? Half a second. And then all of a sudden, where does it go? Boom. It's trending in a bad way, and it's forgotten about. Go to the next one. I send you two of them, and this is the other one as well. Look what's happened there. It's pretty much done. I've sent 2 things on Threads just to see what it look like and how it's done. And then it's going back to Twitter.
By the way, there's a couple things here with Threads because, Threads, first off, if you were to do a Google search on the mainstream media hits, if you just check Threads, right? Like, they're loving Threads, right? They want everyone to know that the celebrities are moving to the Threads blowing up. It's all great if you just do a news search. It's all going to be good. There might be 1 or 2 things about now how Zuck is using it a little bit less. But everything will basically be positive. Then if you do a Google News search on Twitter, it's all negative. It's always Elon did this, hate speech, this, blah, blah, blah. So all of that. But the bigger idea with Threads is that what in the world would you have to be thinking to go to follow Mark Zuckerberg, the guy who admitted that he was working with the government to censor people during COVID? He's now saying to everybody, hey, I am creating a censorship style Twitter. Please follow me to that. And apparently 100 million people followed him and then very quickly got bored of it. But the very concept that you would build a new tech company, a new product, an app based in censorship, and that a crazy amount of people actually want to follow you to that world. I mean, that's a very reverse Matrix red pill situation.
I'll give like real
He's
life
doling out blue pills and people are going, yes, I'd like another.
I'll give a real life example that's just basically reaffirming what you guys are saying. So I used to be in the nightlife business, so you can substitute restaurant for it or pretty much anything. The blue line is your venue, your established nightlife club, your restaurant, whatever. Oh, there's a new restaurant down the block. They're gonna open up. They're gonna kick your ass. Opening night. There's a line out the block. It's like what we would say in nightlife is, talk to me in a year. Is the club still even gonna be there? Because it's all about sustainability. And look, opening night, they killed it. Everyone's talking about Threads. A week later, nobody's talking about Threads. Now talk to me in a year. So let's see if that club's still open.
It's not easy. This game is not easy. I mean, listen, Threads is the new Google Plus, is what it is. The number one website you and I go to search things is Google. And they try to create a social media company. And when's the last time you thought about Google Plus? Actually, when is the last time you logged on to go to Google Plus?
Does it even exist? I don't even think it exists anymore.
How many active users are there on Google Plus? Oh, actually, there it is. They shut it down in 2019. Imagine the number one searched website in the world launches a social media company based on the search website, google.com, and they failed. And now Facebook is doing...
Right. Can I tell you? You can also look at CNN Plus. They're doing well. Where are they
killing it?
They crushed it.
How are they doing?
You know which one I love?
They shut down? Oh, my bad.
The best interview I saw on CNN Plus is the best interview I saw on CNN Plus is the one Carrie Lake did. It was amazing. She crushed it on that one interview. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Oh, you're talking about when she went with the reporter and she's like, "Where's
the how's that doing?"
Can I? You'll love this, Pat. So when I created Locals.com, really what I was creating, it was before it wasn't even called Locals. All I was trying to do was I wanted to build a subscription network for myself, the ability just basically to take what Patreon does and replicate it so I own it so I could never be kicked off it and build that for my business. We built that for me first. And then after about 2 months realizing, wow, we're making money, this thing's working, I was like, wait a minute. If this thing works for me, there's a million creators like me out there. Why don't we see if we can expand on this? And then we started the company. We obviously got some investment, built out the company and all of those things. But I think what we did first that worked, that Threads did not do, and all of these apps don't do, is we had a problem that needed to be solved. And we went to solve that problem. You don't want to be reliant on big tech. You want to be an independent creator. Here are the tools to go ahead and do that. And that's what we built. And that's why we merged with Rumble and that whole story. Threads was not trying to solve a problem. No, because their perceived problem was that there is too much free speech. But that's not a real problem. So everyone going to Threads was in essence trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? So when he says on day one, when they launched the thing, Zuckerberg put up a tweet. He said, well, we want this place to be fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's not really what the problem is, that people aren't having fun online.
When I think of Mark Zuckerberg, I think of fun.
Party. Yep, he's the man.
But what he also meant right under fun was censored, right? Because the only way you keep this thing fun and light and happy and everyone smiling, you're gonna have to censor the shit out of an awful lot of people. So he solved a problem that did not exist, and I think people start intuitively realizing that over a couple of weeks, and that leads to where we're at.
And by the way, I will say this. He may not look like he's a fun guy. Trust me, Zuckerberg is having a lot of fun. Whether it's jujitsu, whether it's water skiing, the stuff that he's doing is crazy. How active he is out there. So
he's an alien.
Maybe
so aliens
he's boring on the outside.
It's amazing what $100 billion will do to enable you to have some fun.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of billionaires who will never do shit like this, and they just want to count their money.
Look at that alien
actually
go.
out there.
And by 89.
Technically, he's a humanoid robot.
He's a humanoid guy.
Not an
I am
alien.
not a guy that's got a Zuck poster. I'm sitting endorsing this. I'm just saying this guy looks like he's having a fun life. But you know, it's funny you say that. How many of your DMs on Instagram do you respond to?
Me personally, almost nothing. But that guy right there handles it.
Phoenix does. Okay.
Brock. Yeah.
Okay. How many of your Twitter messages do you respond? Is it also somebody else?
Virtually nothing.
Do you respond to any one of them?
I respond to things on locals.
You respond to things on
because
locals.
I built it so that if you really want to contact me and you want to have a conversation with me, you gotta pony up a couple bucks and then I'll talk to you.
So what we did is we launched an app called Minect.
Yeah.
So Minect, where last month we got 60,000 downloads of the app, which was very interesting to see what's happening. We paid influencers anywhere between $5,000 in a month to $100,000 just last month, in the month of June. I think one person got paid $93,000 last month.
The people who are answering the questions.
The people that are responding. So you have three options on Minect. If you look up Minect.com, you can, people DM you all the time. You're like, dude, I don't want to respond back. I can either respond back in text, and you choose your price point. $10, $50, $100, $500. And then you get to respond back in text, or if you want a video, you can send a video back, or you can have a 15-minute FaceTime call with the person, or an hour FaceTime call. I think Adam had a couple days ago. He did, calls with people. He's making $3,000, $4,000 in a day just doing the next. I think there's a part there to monetize influencers. And by the way, quick plug: if you're not using Minect, download the app. You have a bunch of different people ask questions. If you're an expert yourself, it's also a good place for you to be on and share with your audience.
By the way, it also changes the behavior of the internet. Because of anonymity and because of burner accounts and everything, it encourages the worst behavior possible. You ask people. My community, we leave it up to everybody's locals community. You decide your price point. So mine is $5 a month. I think Scott Adams is $7. We have people that have 15, whatever it is. But quite literally, if you did 25 cents per month, you can completely alter everybody's behavior. Because once they just put in something, you might even be able to do it at a penny. I kid you not. Once they have to do something,
that's such a good
you
point.
have completely altered their behavior. And it's not that I'm looking to alter behavior in terms of how people think or anything else, but if you're going to be part of my time and my expenses, mentally and otherwise, then
Shout out to the Minect team, by the way. What a great app that we got going on over there.
Yeah, we got the team to be thicker right now. We got a lot of people involved. It's exciting what we're about to launch next. But I want to give you guys this one article here. Very important for all of us to be prepared for this. And before I go with Ron Perlman losing his mind against an executive that made $27 million in a year, and what microaggression is, 15 things people think are fine to say at work but are actually racist, sexist, and offensive, according to Insider. Rob, we have some breaking news on what happened this morning on Truth Social with Trump, what he tweeted out 30 minutes ago, if you want to show this. Trump says he expects arrest and indictment over January 6th Capitol riot. This just came out this morning. President Donald Trump said Tuesday that he expected to get indicted on federal charges on January 6th Capitol riot supporters disrupted certification of the 2020 election. He's a front-runner, election interference. Wow, on Sunday night, while I was with my family, having just arrived with Turning Point event in Florida, where I was won the straw poll against all the other Republican candidates with 85.7%, with all polls showing me leading in the Republican primary by very substantial numbers, almost everyone predicting that I will be Republican nominee for president. And as I am leading Democrat Joe Biden in the polls by a lot, horrifying news for our country was given to me by my attorneys. Deranged Jack Smith, the prosecutor with Joe Biden's DOJ, sent a letter, again, it was on Sunday night, stating that I am a target of the January 6th grand jury investigation and giving me a very short 4 days to report to the grand jury, which almost always means an arrest and indictment. Go a little lower to see if there's anything else. Trump added, so now Joe Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland, who I turned down for the United States Supreme Court in retrospect, based on this corrupt and unethical actions, a very wise decision, together with Joe Biden's Department of Injustice, have effectively issued a third indictment and arrest of Joe Biden's #1 political opponent, who is largely dominating him in the race for the presidency. Nothing like this has ever happened in our country before or even close. And obviously on the bottom it says he's been arrested twice. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first off, the way he writes, it really should be studied, and I don't know what they should do with it. What are they saying they're arresting him for inciting a riot? I mean, he's not saying what the actual charge is. Target of the January 6th.
Is there anything else on the bottom, Rob? If you want to go a little lower to see if there's anything else we can zoom in on that.
It must have something to do with inciting it, right?
Yeah.
Like that must be the
his
charge?
attitude that day.
He was actually the shaman. He dressed up.
Was,
that was him.
Yeah. Look,
QAnon
it really makes you wonder if they had not done this New York charge, if this federal case had not happened, which happened to be on Miami, it has nothing to do with Florida, and now another one of these, it really makes you wonder where Trump would be at in the polls. Because it's almost as if the system is keeping him inflated by continually doing these things. It keeps everybody defending him all the time. We need to know a little bit more about the specific
Dave, you're
charge.
saying inflated.
Yeah,
because it's actually a good thing on the Republican
I think
primary.
we know he gets a bump every single time. More people feel that they have to defend him.
Right, every time.
So he's leaning into it.
It shows people, so of course he's leaning into it here. I don't think the guy wants to end up in jail. Again, we need to know about the specifics. It must be about inciting a riot, which they're going to have a real hard time proving because, there's plenty of video of him that day go peacefully here, and now we also know about all the feds that were in the freaking crowd and moving barriers out of the way. And so this is just, oh man, the show must go on.
Can we all agree
we are
that
in the show must go on version of
democracy?
democracy.
No matter what, Trump's not literally ending up in jail. That's not happening.
No, I don't think so. There's
think
always a
about
deal.
that.
There's always a deal to be cut. He knows how
I
to
mean,
make
that
it.
would be funny because he could be in jail and still run for the he could still be locked up, which would be hilarious. That'd be like the orange is the new black. It'd just be orange. Orange would be the new orange. But Dave, you make a good point. It's
orange is the new orange.
Orange is the new orange.
Good.
That's just hilarious. You heard it here first. But you would think, Dave, because this is obviously the left's tactic. You'd think that they would get it. Just leave him the hell alone, because all you're doing is helping him.
Look, I mean, the conspiracy version of that would be that they want everybody to be into Trump because they want him to be the nominee because he will not win. And that he is far more, again, putting aside everything that we discussed about DeSantis, that DeSantis is, from where I sit, clearly more of a mainstream threat to take out Biden in an actual general. You can get crossover votes. You can see it. Trump, if we're to believe the last election was true, right, and Biden got 81 million votes and Trump got 75, there are no new Trump supporters. There just aren't.
At all.
There aren't.
Yep.
I don't think there are new Biden supporters either, and again, you can question whether the election was legitimate and all of that stuff. But it seems fairly obvious to me. The system itself would love Trump to run because Trump will not be president, where the system actually doesn't know exactly how to react, whether it was DeSantis or even if it was Nikki Haley, someone that was functional, that could cross appeal. People are pissed at the Democrats. So there's some level of that maybe that's going on here. They just want to keep inflating him.
Fully agree with you. I think that there's a faction of the DNC that says we did it once, we can do it again. Trump's approval ratings, if you trust 538, are just as low as Biden's, give or take a point or two. And the age thing won't be an issue. And
what do you think about that? The idea that the machine, in essence, wants to keep Trump afloat because they want him as the nominee?
Pat thinks differently. I know that.
Okay. So because what? Because DeSantis can beat him?
Yeah, because there's every reason to think he can bring
if you want to go there, I'm going to go
put aside DeSantis, but that the idea that, forget DeSantis or any of the others, that they want to keep Trump in the mix because it puts a sort of stain on the Republicans.
When I talk to guys behind closed doors who are pro-DeSantis or pro-Trump or anti-DeSantis or anti-Trump or just, I like DeSantis, but I'm going to vote for a Republican no matter who it is. Like you saw Brian Kemp, Kemp was asked a question by the girl from CNN or MSNBC where it's like, so are you going to be supporting President Donald Trump if he's the nominee? He says, I absolutely will be supporting him. He says, but you were the same one that wasn't agreeing to help him out. He says, yeah, that's something that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to come, but there's no way in the world the alternative is Joe Biden. I'm not going to have Joe Biden win it. So, of course, I'm going to go support Trump. That's kind of good to see Kemp doing that. I think he's setting the tone for everybody else.
Sure.
But there's a few different arguments out there. One of them is, what does DeSantis know something the rest of us don't know? That's one argument, which is what? Is the establishment behind closed doors saying, don't worry, Trump's not going to be there at the end. It's going to be you, and you'll be the front runner running against these guys. Because there's a market of people that are saying between the two, who's more establishment? DeSantis is more establishment. That's what the argument is, than Trump, right?
Yeah,
Trump,
I don't necessarily agree with that argument.
no, you don't have to agree with that. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
in a market, a lot of people will say, between the two, if we have to choose who's more establishment, it's DeSantis. Not at the level of Mike Pence, okay? Not at the level of, you know, maybe even Chris Christie, but he's more establishment than Trump is because he's come through the system, military, Congress, governor. He's been in it more than Trump has, right? Trump was asked a question by Mario Bartiromo on, you know, how do you feel about the fact that people are saying you actually didn't drain the swamp? You know, DeSantis keeps saying, you're saying you were going to drain the swamp. You didn't drain the swamp. The wall is only 50 miles and all this other stuff. That's a great argument DeSantis make. But what did Trump say? Trump's response was, he said, it's brilliant, by the way, what his response was. He said, yeah, you're right. But guess what? I've been spending time networking in New York. Those guys, I know who the swamp is in New York. I don't know who the swamp is in D.C. I just showed up to D.C. He says, first of all, when me and the First Lady walked up and we found out we won, we're like, oh, shit, we won. What are we going to do now? He says, it took me 4 years to realize who is swamp. I realized Chris Christie is swamp. I made a wrong decision hiring Bill Barr, hiring Esper, hiring some of these guys, and that's what he was saying. So to me, he is now coming from that side, but for them to say, you know, this is going to help him or this is not going to help him and DeSantis is going to come in, if DeSantis is using that as a play, I think you're playing defense, you're not playing offense. But now let's say the other side, that they're doing this because they don't want DeSantis to be the nominee. If that's the case, why are all these liberal media outlets saying the following? This is what the liberal media outlets are saying the following. They're saying, you know, DeSantis, Ramaswamy, and Haley got Wall Street donations over Trump, okay? Or Trump nominating Ray was a mistake, Chris Christie recommends. Why is everybody who is wanting this defending and trashing, even the liberal side is not playing consistent with them wanting a Trump over DeSantis? Because if they're thinking like this is helping out, I think if you don't fear Trump as a candidate, get out of his way. If you don't fear Trump and you're like, oh, we want Trump as a candidate, you do? Yeah, don't do this. Leave it alone, because now the whole witch hunt thing is now on steroids. What's the next thing? And what's the next thing? And what's the next thing? Guess what? While they're doing this, the two numbers that are the most consistent numbers right now, if you look at, the trust America has in mainstream media and the trust America has in the U.S. government, it's the lowest it's ever been.
Ever.
The American people, left or right, do not trust mainstream media, and they do not trust the government. So the organization we don't trust keeps saying, Trump this, Trump that. They're like, dude, I don't believe anything these guys are saying right now. I don't believe anything. So I think it's like the whole concept of, you know, they want to be able to do this because they're wanting Trump as a candidate versus DeSantis. I think that's the DeSantis camp liking to hear that. There's this whole concept of selective hearing, that we want to hear certain things because it validates, you know, the whole, what do they call it? The bias. There's a name towards that.
Cognitive bias?
Cognitive bias. Like you only see the stuff that you want to see because it agrees with what you're thinking. That leaves blind spots. And I don't think that's true.
You know, it's interesting, this concept that somehow DeSantis is more in the machine or more part of the swamp or something. It's like DeSantis has done literally everything any of us could have asked to fight the machine. Getting ESG out of all the Florida institutions. That's basically as big as it can get. Fighting the woke at every freaking level. The gender stuff in Florida, the race stuff in Florida. He has done all of the things that any of us could have asked. And yet still, and this is one of my frustrations with Trump, again, who I voted for, has been his level of lying on DeSantis. I think has convinced a lot of people things about DeSantis that simply are not true. DeSantis has said he has met Paul Ryan once in his entire life. Donald Trump has spent an awful lot of time around Paul Ryan. You can watch the compilation videos of him saying tons of good things about Paul Ryan over the years. Donald Trump worked with Karl Rove. I think DeSantis said he also has met him once before he was president. You can check me on that. So we have a guy who you can say, okay, he's not rich, so he'll be beholden to the rich or something like that. And I think all of those arguments can be made. But if you just look at the proof is in the pudding, who has done all of the things that they said they were going to do, and they're all the things that are to fight the swamp and fight the machine? The answer obviously is DeSantis, while Trump, rich, billionaire, okay, has in many ways been defeated by that very swamp. So I think you can probably argue that both ways.
Yeah, that's a good point. But for me, if we have to say, like on the Trump side, here's Trump style. Trump style is flattery is one of his weapons. He knows how to control you through flattery.
It's also a weakness, by the way. Let's not forget that during COVID, now he admitted it post-COVID, where he said, I could never hit Gavin Newsom too hard because he always said nice things about me. Right. So this flattery thing works both ways.
Kim Jong-un, I love him. He says nice things about me, writes me love letters.
I don't disagree. I'm just telling you what I think he does. I think he does flattery. I think he is charm. I think he is charismatic. But I also think if he gets one inkling that you're not on his side, he flips on you so hardcore that he wants to destroy you. This is his mindset. By the way, like it or don't like it, that's what he's done. He's from New York. Okay, he comes from a different lineage of.
He was a real estate guy in New York. You got to do some nasty shit.
They asked the question, so what do you think about Barron? What could you tell him? I like him a lot. He's strong. He's this, and he's vicious. I like the fact that my son is vicious. He compliments Barron using the word vicious. Like, you have to know, this guy really, if he's your father, he's feeding you stuff like this to you. Adam, the world's an ugly place. Don't trust a lot of people. Everybody wants to take advantage of you. There's only a few people. That's the stuff that I think he feeds his kids. And by the way, these are not bad things to feed your kids. It's work for him. And when you get to a level like that, you learn you've been screwed by girls, by men, by peers, by friends, by business partners, by politicians. You know what? You shouldn't trust a lot of people because of what really is taking place here.
And he needs to give his son a speech like that because you walk around the world. I think his son's like 6'8".
His son is ridiculous.
It's going to be noticeable, and your last name is Trump. Yeah. You're going to be getting it from all sides. Yeah. That kid.
And by the way, when you take the endless BS from the machine all the time, the media and the politicians and everything, it hardens you over time. I think we talked about this once. Have you ever seen any of those old videos of Trump on Oprah or Trump on Phil Donahue from the mid-early 80s? They're incredible. You listen to this guy. He's saying, in essence, the same exact things, but his affect is very different because he's much softer back then. There's a pleasantness and a calmness where now it's gruff and it's angry because he's been through 40 years of insanity. So you can watch any of these.
And David, I do agree though, the anger, the vendetta though, because let's not forget all the Trump voters that I know that are going back for him. They're pissed off because he came in. They were colluding with Hillary, the FBI, cheating, called the media, fake news. FBI is all full of shit. The deep state. He has a vendetta where he's like, listen, I came in, I won fair and square. Look at the shitstorm I caused where everybody, even in his own cabinet, were against him to get him out. It's payback time. And I could see why some of the anger would come out, just like RFK. Bro, the government killed your father and your uncle. Guess what? That's where you have that attitude. That's why he's anti-war. That's why he's, pro, RFK was killed for what? Didn't want to go to get everybody out of Vietnam. He wanted to splinter the CIA into a million pieces. He wanted to, end segregation and stuff like that. So they had to kill him. So I can see why Trump is so angry now because, bro, if you came into a competition, all of us, Dave, and you came in, and before you even got in, Hillary was doing what she was doing with the FBI, with the fake dossier, with everything. The media's all, lying to you. And then all you have to do is you say fake news, and that woke up everybody to how much full of shit they are. I'd be furious too.
By the way, here's the part to realize on the anger side, okay? Are voters angry today? Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Is America angry today?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So guess who relates to that? The voters.
Yes.
Those who are angry is like, wait a minute. Dude, you forced me to take the vaccine. I had a couple friends here from Ecuador a couple days ago. They're at the house, and we're talking. And he's talking about how bad it is right now in Ecuador with Correa. Correa is like almost about to come back, and the current president that's there, he's going to probably lose it because election's coming up. And Correa is like this ridiculous power trip type of guy who's wanting to take the philosophy of what Castro and some of these other guys did. And I'm sitting there saying, we didn't take the vaccine. And him and his wife look at us like we're aliens. So, what do you mean? Yeah. Says, Jennifer and I, we didn't take a single vaccine, not a booster, nothing. Says nothing, zero. I said, but my dad took it because he chose to take it. We didn't judge him. My nanny took it because she chose it. No, we didn't judge him. Says, you guys didn't take the vaccine. I said, zero. Says, Patrick, we couldn't go to the store. Mm-hmm. We couldn't go buy anything. Everywhere in Ecuador you went out, you had to show your vaccine card or else you couldn't go to a restaurant, you couldn't go to the store. Those people, on what happened to them in New York, the restaurants that you put out of business, do you know what happens with a restaurant that's been there for 3 generations and my restaurant that my great-grandfather started, you cause it to go out of business? You're not like, Well, I'm a little bit upset, but let's move on, guys. No, you're angry.
Yes.
You're angry.
Yep.
So Trump is connecting with that angry audience.
So I completely agree with that. But then if you think about it a step later, or just one layer deeper, Trump also pushed warp speed. Trump gave Fauci an award on his last day in office, gave him an honorable, whatever you call it. So Trump made mistakes. That's one of the things that's interesting about the Trump base. They're the most radically anti-vax and certainly anti-mandate. And he was never for a mandate. So I'll give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
But he was swallowed by the swamp in that regard. How many videos have you seen of Fauci saying we would meet with Trump and he would say, do whatever you want to do? The drain the swamp guy actually handed the keys to the castle to the swamp. It's interesting how the base does not seem to associate those two things.
Guys, I really want to go to this last story here with the microaggression. I know we got 3 minutes left. I'm going to just read a couple of them because it's that funny.
See if you can really offend us.
So it's that funny. Okay, so it's page 16 at the bottom. This is Insider Rob. If you can pull up the story so the audience can see the story as well to see how ridiculous the stuff they're writing right now. What is microaggression? 15 things people think they are fine to say at work, but are actually racist, sexist, or offensive. Guys, brace for impact.
Oh my God.
Ready? You're so articulate. Complimenting a person of color under articulation perpetuates racial stereotypes and implies low expectations. Here's the next one. Haha, you're so OCD on how you manage projects. Or damn, you work on so many different things like you have ADHD. Joking about mental health conditions reinforces stigma and can be damaging. Okay? You're transgender. Wow, you don't look like it at all. Okay. You're transgender. You don't look like it at all.
That's brilliant.
Commenting on a transgender person's
say.
Appearance reinforces negative stereotypes and undermines their identity. Oh, sorry, wrong person. Mistaking names based on race or ethnicity reinforces the notion that all individuals of a particular group look the same. Oh, you're gay? You should meet my friend Ann. She's gay too. Assuming compatibility amongst LGBTQ individuals disregards individuals' preferences and reinforces stereotypes.
But lesbians do all sleep with each other. Everyone knows that. Come on. You meet a lesbian, she has slept with every other lesbian that's out there.
Get over here.
My boss is crazy. Using gender terms like crazy or hysterical to describe female bosses undermines their concerns and critical thinking. By the way, this keeps going. Where are you actually from? The way you've overcome your disability is so inspiring. Praising disabled individuals for basically accomplishments perpetuates low expectations and undermines their capabilities. Your name is so hard to pronounce. I think you're in the wrong room. This is the programmers meeting. Do you even know what Snapchat is? Are you an intern? You look so young. Is that your real hair? Well, actually, I think interrupting women and taking credit for their idea undermines their contributions and reinforces gender disparities. Why do you wear that? Probing religious individuals. Do you realize how insane of a word? So
wait, sorry. What was the one about you're in the wrong room? You might be in the wrong room.
You might be in the wrong room.
Into the wrong room.
By the way, Vinny has broken 12 out of the 15 today.
I've broken 12 of those just in the past 2-3 hours before we came in.
Can you imagine working at Insider? Hey, I got a message for those of you guys that actually work for Business Insider. I have sympathy for you. You don't have to walk on eggshells. There is a land outside of Insider that is a free land. Yeah. It's a place where you can actually have fun and be free with others and have your own thoughts and think for yourself. So for some of you that hate working at your job where you have to think like this and walk on eggshells, you may want to start posting your resume and looking for elsewhere. And I'm not saying come work at Valuetainment because you may not like how crazy we are, but there's definitely better places.
Wait, number 6.
Crazy?
My boss is crazy, huh, Adam?
I take that as a compliment, Vinny.
Hey, PBD, before we wrap, I just want to say you're a beautiful transgender woman.
And he's my crazy boss.
And by the
I
way,
am so offended. You know that? I am so offended by that.
And by the way, PBD, the way
God.
that you've overcome your disability is so inspiring.
Unbelievable.
Yes,
I didn't
Listen,
even want to say
it's
that.
taken years, but for me, my ESL has held me back for a long time. I never took English 101, but I'm getting better.
Where are you actually from, Pat?
For years.
Years. Yeah.
I've been working
Why do you
on
wear
it.
that?
And
Years.
what's the other one? Amit. Amit is the other one. What's the other one you like to tease me with? Well,
We're still teaching his English words.
Yeah, I'm getting better. Be patient.
Amid
Instead
the
of
current
Amit
situation.
Or yours.
Amid.
How are you supposed to say yours?
Years.
I can't say that. I say yours. The way I say
It's like ears, but with a Y.
And they let you on the internet? That's why.
I don't know why they let
This guy can't even say
Is that your real hair?
Yeah. So look, I asked my kids the other day, I said, guys, am I old? Daddy, not yet. Not yet. You're still young. You're not young, but you're not old yet. So that's the compliment that matters the most. Anyways, Dave, as usual, pleasure having you on.
Great seeing you guys.
Every time, we just love the conversation. 2 hours goes by in 5 minutes. I want to tell you guys who we're going to have at our town hall. And by the way, we didn't even talk about this guy that's going to be at the town. So funny.
I know.
We had one of the topics we didn't even get into.
A little bit. We saw some numbers that people wanted to see him.
So the town hall, absolutely. People have been asking about this for a minute. August 4th, in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, Vivek Ramaswamy will be right here doing a town hall with us, with 200 people in attendance. There's going to be 3 tiers of tickets, general, and then you have, what's the top one? Go premium, and then VIP. The VIP folks will get a chance to sit in the front row. We'll come to you possibly to ask some questions. When you buy the ticket, you can actually put your questions at the end as well. And we'll get a chance to meet them. And the VIP folks will go to the cigar lounge. I'll be there. You'll get a chance to ask myself and Vivek some questions, but specifically to meet Vivek. This is a guy that could be someone that's doing something at the White House. It's a man that built a multi-billion-dollar company and went out of a year ago, nobody knowing who he was except from his family and a couple podcasts he's done, to now he's going up there, about to potentially get to the second spot. Maybe. We don't know if it's going to happen or not. But if you want to see Vivek face-to-face, text the word podcast. You're going to get an email back immediately, a link to the website. Text the word podcast to 310-340-1132. Again, text the word podcast to 310-340-1132. Or Rob, what's the website for them to go to? Is it 5990live.com?
Correct.
Or go to 5990live.com, buy your tickets, and come spend August 4th evening with us. I think we're going to do an evening show, and then afterwards we'll be at the club hanging out together.
He was the best, Pat. Because I was at the turning point. Sorry to cut you off, Adam.
Don't drive any more initiatives.
No,
I only want to talk. Don't say I have a podcast as well.
No, he was out of everybody, because I saw Tucker, I saw Trump. Trump came out, fireworks. He just stood there and didn't say nothing for like a good 2 minutes. Vivek wasn't reading a teleprompter. He was engaging. He was like, everybody was stuck on him, and to me, he was the best out of everybody.
There was a famous song about that. Stuck on you. You got this feeling. Right.
What were you going to say, Adam?
Go ahead,
Adam.
Well, it was a story from Aspen. But
tell us the story.
Tell us
the story. I want to hear that story.
Adam, when did you get here?
Adam, you're here.
I just flew, and the flight was delayed on the way back. I had to be.
Apparently, you got married. You got married in Aspen.
Relax with all that. Relax with all that. But I was flew private out to Aspen. It was amazing. It was awesome. Flew commercial on the way back, like I normally do, whatever. And I get to the Aspen airport. By the way, there's 0 people in line to get to the airport. My flight's at 4 o'clock. I arrive at the airport at 3:30. Running late. All right, go right in. TSA pre-check. Nobody's in line. Boom, right through. Starving. Order a hamburger. All of a sudden, it's like taking too long. I'm like, can we hurry up and get this burger? The guy in line ordering next to me goes, "Oh, you're on the flight back to Miami?" I go, yeah. I'm like trying to get on the flight. He goes, "You're good, dude. You're not going to miss the flight." I go, why? Why is that? He goes, "I'm the captain of the flight.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm waiting on my sandwich." By the way, huge fan of the PBD podcast. Huge fan. Not going to let you miss his flight, Adam. So he gave us a little special message. Do you have that, Rob? So here's
the captain did.
Captain Matias.
Wow.
Captain of the flight.
Let's see what we got here.
So PBD, I'm leaving Aspen on the way to Dallas, and I'm like worried that I'm running late. And the guy next to me getting food, he goes, "Don't worry, you're not going to miss the flight." I said, "Why is that?" He goes, "I'm the captain of the flight."
Dude, no problem, man.
That's awesome.
I got your coffee. We're doing this.
We're good. He goes, "I'm a huge fan of PBD podcast, by the way." I go, "Get out of here. We got to call Pat."
You guys are doing a great job getting your clips on Facebook. It's always on my feed. It's great. I love it, man. Keep up the good work. I appreciate all the things you're putting out, all the freedom of speech stuff. I love it. Keep it up. Good work.
How sick is this? Awesome,
Matias in the house.
What's his name, Matias?
Captain Matias.
Well, Matias, I appreciate you following the content. I highly recommend you keep your eye on the ball while you're flying. For all the other time, watch as much as you want, and hopefully one of these days we'll meet you, Captain Matias. Have a great day, everybody. Thursday podcast is a... Can we actually say who's the guest on Thursday?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anthony Weiner's on the podcast on Thursday. And Chris Cuomo's on the podcast Saturday. So we'll see you guys on the podcast the next 2. Take care. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Anthony.